All right, here we go. Episode 52. And it's about to start. You ready? You ready to go?
Yeah, ready.
I wasn't sure you guys missed it. Nathan was standing off the side ready to make a grand entrance. It was awesome. So welcome everyone to episode 52. Glad to finally meet you, Nate.
Likewise.
We're going Nathan or Nate?
Nate.
Okay, you sure?
Yep.
That's like my son, yeah. Nate.
Okay.
I got a middle son. That's easy to remember. But we have former U.S. Marine Corps reserves.
Yes.
Corporal Nathan Chalfant with us tonight. Thanks for coming in again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you finally.
Likewise.
Heard a lot about you. Hopefully you live up to it.
Good things, I hope.
I mean, Joe's been hyping you up hard,
Oh,
so
gosh.
it's all on Joe on this point here. So,
Yeah.
And he's working the computer today. We might be in trouble. A Marine, two Marines in the house.
Right.
So we'll start off like we always do. Pours with Patriots. We'll start off with a quote here. This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called the children of God. And that might make a little bit more sense as we move along.
Sure.
In the podcast.
Yep.
Give a little bit, like a little tendency, better, like,
Yeah,
thing though. Try to figure him out. But I was trying, if you haven't seen before, he's a SWAT guy, which we got to get into that. Everyone wants to talk about the cool stuff. So
Yes.
every time he tries to SWAT quotes, it goes right to the SWAT movie. And I thought that was like, the SWAT movie is cheesy.
It is. So that's the Hollywood version, right?
Yeah. I mean, so you can't go to like, there was no really good like SWAT movie quotes.
No, not that I remember.
Yeah. And then the SWAT TV show sucks. Would you agree with that before we?
Oh, absolutely. But it's funny watching it because it's like you've seen behind the curtain, right? So when you're watching it on the telly, it's like that's his gun, it's on safe, or it's like that's his optics on backwards, right? These things that Hollywood doesn't pick up on.
Or he's always wearing the gloves too. Like, yeah, like even in like, he's like going to get lunch, he's got the gloves on. I was waiting for Nate to come in with the gloves on.
Well, I took them off right before I came in the door, but they're in my pocket.
To get the doorknob.
Yeah.
He couldn't even open the doorknob. I'm not worried about him raiding this place here. No.
I'm not a breacher. I'm not a breacher at all.
He's got his task that he's good at. So
Right.
now that we made fun of the SWAT, the appropriate things to make fun of,
Yes.
I think that's good. So we'll go into, we'll start like we always do about growing up. Another Ohio guy.
Yep. So grew up here, Westerville area. Attended St. Paul's. We had a house fire when I was a little youngin'. From there, moved to a couple different houses in the area. Galena Road. Lived with some friends of the family for a bit while we were trying to figure out the house situation. Come from a big family, mom, dad, and there's 7 children total. I am the youngest of 5 boys, and I have 2 younger sisters. So moving around, we kind of had to divide and conquer during the house fire situation. Finally settled down on the east side of Columbus. Attended St. Francis de Sales High School from the house out there out east.
I think you're the second DeSale guy, or second. What's the other high school? The Catholic high schools. DeSale, DeSale is the all male.
The Watterson. There's
What's the all male? Is DeSale all male?
St. Charles.
St. Charles. Yeah, we had St. Charles, and that's what it was. I can't. Or we had a guest before. You made it all the way through the 4 years. He didn't, which we like to give him a hard time about. But
each their own. Right? Each their own.
So going there, was that religious based or what was it?
Yeah.
Just,
so my mom's license plate growing up was We Pray. I mean, it's still to the day, right?
Okay.
We Pray. Church a lot. Church on the weekends. We would go to Catholic masses. My dad's more non-denominational. So we would do Catholic mass in the mornings, and then after that, heading to Zion, out kind of up near off Sawmill Road, and it was back to youth group in the evenings on Sundays. So very religious family growing up, and I think that was a big push to DeSales. And my older brother, we're all 3 years apart. So when he was a senior as a freshman, he kind of transported me from point A to point B being DeSales, and then I got my license and just kind of started driving back and forth.
So played a bunch of sports while you're there.
So I really didn't. During the house fire thing, the school was weird. I went to a smaller school called Christa Fidelis. There was a handful of kids in my class from like 3rd grade all the way up to 8th grade. So I think at one point dabbled a little bit of basketball, and we would go down to like Hospital West. It was where we would go play the games. It was kind of weird, but like I didn't really do sports growing up, and so going to high school. Especially at DeSales, they're very known for their sports. And I was like, you know what, my brother, I'm going to do what he does, right? So he wrestled and he played soccer. Well, I figured out real quick, wrestling wasn't my thing, right? These dudes have been like doing it.
It's not a lot of people's thing.
3, and I'm just getting into it and realized, I don't know what I'm doing, right? And the practices were rough. You're out there doing handstands back and forth on the mat. And then you do like these wrestle offs, and I'm putting the pretzel moves, and I was not good at wrestling. I learned that very quickly. And then soccer, there's a lot of running in soccer, right? And I dabbled with that, made some friends there. And then my sophomore year, found golf. I'd never really played growing up ish much. And a good buddy of mine that I actually ended up joining the Marine Corps with from DeSales, and we were on the golf team together. But I had a blast with golf, right? And you get to go play these courses now, looking back at it, to where you'd never really have the opportunities to go to. It was really cool. Our home course was Tangleweed back in the day. Now it's Glen Ross. It completely looks different. I really, really enjoy golf.
You still playing now?
I try. I've got 4 kids at home. Time is, it's not like, hey, honey, I'm going to leave for 7 hours. I'll see you later in the evening. So I try to, yes.
That's why you got to play the whole SWAT thing. You got to be like, honey, oh my God, the page went off. I got to go.
Right.
It's a big case. We got to roll it. I'll be back when I'm back. Don't, I won't be in touch, but, hide the stuff somewhere else.
Right. But yeah.
I'm not really saying that, Stacey. That's his wife's name. I'm not really saying that.
I've never done that, Stacey.
I hope not. We'll just stop at that point.
Sure.
So, religion's big growing up.
Yes.
What about the military? Any people, anybody in your family?
Members?
Yeah.
My dad was in the Coast Guard. He graduated '69 from Walnut Ridge. From there, he went and played football for the Coast Guard. I always kind of jab at him a little bit, like it's kind of like a branch of the military, right? But a buddy of mine, he does a church service every Veterans Day, and we went to it. And you look up on the wall, and it had all the branches of military T-shirts hanging up. And one of them, I took my dad. Hey, Dad, let's go to this Veterans Day service, right? And we go to it, and hey, Nate, what? He goes, there's no Coast Guard T-shirt hanging on the wall. I'm like, well,
I told you, Dad, it wasn't a real branch. Now.
So he fixed it though. We got the address of my buddy, and he overnighted him a Coast Guard T-shirt that could be hung up for the next year. But my uncle, he was in the military. He was in the Marine Corps back in the day. Grandfather, World War II, military. But in close to me, my older brother, Donald, and then Andy, he graduated high school in '97. He went to Miami University and then joined Lima Company, here local reserve unit in the Marines. And I feel like that was kind of where I was following too. I was kind of like just following his footsteps a little bit, I think.
Following the big brother, huh?
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't have a big brher. No. It's just my dad. I had to follow in that.
I didn't
we always ask that question because it's funny that, how it's interesting how many other people go into either big history or like somebody just decided to like kind of piss off their family and join the military. I love it. So it's it's been more of like, there's a lot of history involved in it, but the people that just joined to piss their family off, it's the best. I mean, those are the,
I feel like if a lot of groups join the military, it's like you get the guys who are gung-ho, want to do it. You get a big group of, they just don't know what to do themselves. And you get a group of people who are just trying to escape, right? Just trying to change a pace, go try something new. So it's kind of all walks of life there. I wanted to do it. So in high school, this was 2001. I'm a sophomore. I was actually sitting in wood shop, which, obviously I'm going to sign for a wood shop. I think I'll get an A in that. And the teacher was my wrestling coach, Coach Marinelli. So I was like, this is going to be fun, but I was sitting there, I'll never forget this day. I don't think like many of us, and we had these TVs. It was like Channel 1 or something, and it popped on, and it was like, oh my gosh, this airplane hit a building. And then there was a second one. So it was like, aha, right, attack. And that was a very big moment in my life. I knew I was going to join the military. And I knew my brother was in the Marine Corps, and I just kind of followed in his footsteps. Like, I didn't even apply to any colleges. I knew it was shortly after I kind of did some research on some things and went up to the Marine Corps recruiting station and signed up. I think it's like a pulley, right? You get to go up there and you work out a little bit. And so graduated high school in 2003 and then shipped out to South Carolina, Parris Island in October of 2003.
You just went to all my next questions. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's the best. Now, before we get into the Marine Corps career, we've been asking some questions to get to know people. You're a busy guy, 4 kids, ranging from ages 18 No, I'm sorry. 16
Yep.
to 9.
Correct.
Busy time in your life.
All boys, Landon, Luke, Liam, and Lincoln. The L thing, like if you ever...
Was that planned?
So no, the first one,
Just
Landon, cool name. Second one, Luke. It was like, cool name, Luke. And then it was like, by the third one, it was like, we kind of have an L thing going on here. Let's stick with it, right? But the problem with it now is, in me growing up, it was, Andy, don't, go to your room. And I get it now because if you try to, and our dogs are Lego,
Lefty,
cat's Lego, dog's Lucy, Lexi.
What's with the L's? I mean, what's going on?
So now it's a thing. Yeah. So, but I don't think we'll be having any more children. But if we did, we would absolutely stick with this L.
So any animal you're getting, it's
L.
It's an L.
It's an L.
What's the next L? What's the
like
L?
The worst thing you could do when we got married young, right when I came up from Iraq. The worst thing you can possibly go do is go buy the book of a million names, right? Because that just then you pick 1,000, and out of 1,000, like it's 100, and you're like, I don't know, right? So it was just kind of that day of. I think with our first, we didn't even want to know if it was a boy or girl. Kind of wanted that surprise thing, and then after that, we were like, yeah, I wanted to know.
I have 3 boys, so it's like, I know you're feeling, but
yeah.
But yelling at them, we got to go back to that. So you yelling out of them. How often do you call your boys the wrong name?
Oof. On the regular.
I do a lot. And then it just got to the point of like, who was in trouble. So who I'm really yelling at.
I'm making eye contact.
Why are you making this difficult for me?
Yes.
I mean, I still call them now. I'm like, I can go through all 3 of them. I'll be like, Nate, Gabe,
yes.
You know what the fuck I'm talking about?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So somebody said Frenchie. We were to get to that. Frenchie is the real deal.
Oh boy.
So we were talking about this as name. So a lot of people, Chalfant, I went with like Cajun, and he was like, no. And then I was like, man, we were talking, and someone's like French. He's like, no. But somehow he's named Frenchie. So it's interesting.
Frenchie, that name came from my unit. Like I said, my older brother was in the Marines, Lima Company 325. And then I think they promoted him to sergeant maybe that day or the next drill. He left, and then here I come in, right? And it's Chalfant, same last name. So I'm kind of rolling around. I think a lot of people were like, hey, there's Andy, right? Hey, Frenchie, but I didn't know who they were. So there was kind of like that transition phase of I came into the unit to where my brother was. So Frenchie stuck with me. And then fast forward in law enforcement, I got a buddy I was in with Lima Company in the Marines, and we joined the SWAT team at the same time, and Frenchie just stuck.
Well, I was just going with it more, make fun of the Marine Corps, but I'm like, they probably didn't realize that you weren't your brother. It is 0311 Marines. So they were like, he kind of looks a little different, but he has the same name.
We did
it's like,
enjoy the same
is that the same guy? Did he lose a little weight? Did he get
right?
Got to make fun of the Marine Corps when we can.
You got
because when we start telling the story, there's no more making fun of the Marine Corps, but tonight that is. So before we get into that, like I said, we were busy. Got the kids. Like, you listen to any other podcasts right now? You have time to do that?
So honestly, you say podcast. I don't even know what that means. Like,
really?
I know it's a station kind of can dabble with. Yeah, I'm very.
What about books? Read any
very
books?
Marine Corps, right? Like books. If there's pictures in it, I'm all about it, right?
Here I'm thinking he's gonna get super philosophical. He just knocked down 7 questions. I'm like, okay, so he doesn't read. It's why he can't listen. He can't listen. No.
I'm trying to do a better job.
What about, so just to tell you, but what about documentaries? What about TV? You watch any TV shows? Obviously not. You watch SWAT.
Yeah, so TV.
You watch SWAT to critique
night.
SWAT.
Yeah, we get on SWAT and we watch it right now. So having the 4 kids, television, it's been cartoons for the last 16 years, right? There's never like.
That's the Marine Corps to him too, though.
We do watch TV. We'll watch streaming on like Netflix and things. I don't have cable, so it's just your basic channels. We'll stream, some kid-appropriate shows. So it's not like, and there. Let's say I enjoyed SWAT, right? And I'd be sitting there watching, and Stacey would be like, "Really? The kids are running around, and that dude's head just got, It's like, okay, I get it." So yes, sports. I enjoy sports a little bit. I'm not a huge sports guy by any means, but I do like watching the Blue Jackets. We do crew games every so often. We do a couple guys at work. We split season tickets, so we get about 6 crew games.
That's cool.
The Blue Jackets was really cool. I had a buddy of mine I was also in high school with. We joined the Marines together. We all went to boot camp together. We were all over in Iraq at the same time. He decided to go active duty, and we were in Iraq at the same time. We come home. He redeployed about 6 months later. He was a part of the sniper unit, and him and 3 other guys were resupplying in Humvee, blown up, dead. His dad reaches out to me and says, "Hey, Nate, would you be interested in doing an event up at the Blue Jackets. It's like military appreciation. And at first I was very hesitant to it. It's like, I'm like, I gotta be in my uniform. He's like, yeah, that would be cool. You're right. And I'm like, gosh, I'm gonna be in my uniform. All these people are gonna come up to me. I'm not very like, yeah, let's chat, let's talk, right, with people. So, but again, I really enjoyed it. It was probably the best seats I've ever had in a Blue Jackets game. I went out there, Leo did his whole thing, and that was really, really cool.
Yeah. So for the people that don't know, the Blue Jackets super supportive of the military. They usually honor a veteran every game.
Yep.
So you're out there doing the national anthem, and then they do put you in some sick ass seats.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You can't complain about that. But back to while we're talking about that, because this is what was your struggle about getting in uniform and doing that? What was the struggle?
There's jokes like everybody knows you're in the Marines, you're in the military. Why? Because we tell them, right? I really don't tell people, right? That's me personally. Going overseas in 2005, I don't talk about it very much. I don't conversate about it very much, so I don't really bring it up. And so by being in my military uniform, I don't, people come up to you, oh, thank you so much, I don't really enjoy that.
Why don't you enjoy it?
I just kind of like to be in the crowd and not really the spotlight.
Yeah, I don't know many people that do like that. I mean, it's an awkward thing whenever anyone, we've talked about this on some other podcasts, that they thank you for your service. It's like a weird, it doesn't feel comfortable sometimes. I mean, I'm okay for the 10% discount at Lowe's and Home Depot, but other than that,
they're putting restrictions on now, but whatever.
Now you can't do it on large appliances, so fuck you, Lowe's.
It doesn't apply for appliances.
What's that?
It doesn't, but it happened to me. I was like, hey, cool, this the 10% thing. He's like, no, not for this. I'm like, really? All right, whatever, we'll still do this.
So I saw the picture, right? We posted the picture of you in uniform at the CBJ game.
Oh,
people have seen that.
I do.
And some of the premise, like, how many years was that after you got out?
That was a couple of years, maybe 07, 08.
Okay, I was impressed. The uniform still fit.
Yes, right. Didn't put on my.
I thought that's what you'd be stressed out about, like that you're really going to be stressed out about it fitting or whatever. That's what I'd be like.
It was a concern. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
right, it was a concern. But yes, there was the pants were very tight. They were very tight.
Good thing there's a whole tunic that goes over you can't see.
Yeah.
Like, I'd even buckle it, put some rubber band there.
Really? Right?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's your cartoon? What's your go-to cartoon then over the past few years with the kids?
That's a good question. Cartoons, a lot of Disney stuff, like more movies.
We're trying to get in touch with the soft side. What's your favorite Disney movie then?
Probably, let's see here. Cartoons, movies. Like
this should be like a big beach balloon for Marine, like cartoons.
Like when the Shrek's movies come out, it was like,
that was good.
The bit of the adult humor kind of come into it.
Good, yeah.
So that's kind of, I enjoyed one of the movies. My wife Stacey not so much. So, but like taking the kids to go see the movies when they come out in the movie theaters, it would be enjoyable.
I still love them. That was the greatest thing about it, because it's like a guilty pleasure. Someone that you're like, I got to watch with my kids, and they're like, this is pretty good. I mean, some of them are pretty good. Yeah. Some of the Disney stuff is definitely.
Some of the Star Wars stuff. We went out and watched a couple of Star Wars movies when we were out in the theater. They watched the new Top Gun, which was phenomenal. Usually sequels and stuff. Now, probably not as good as the original, but phenomenal movie.
Did you expose them to the first one first, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's how people that like taking their kid to that one first. I'm like, with the second one, I'm like, what are you doing? You're scarring your kid. Like, right. I mean,
and it's cool too. My kids are getting kind of to an age where, I have a driver now. He's driving a vehicle, and I don't get very tense or scared. But sitting, if you or my son driving and I'm in the passenger seat, my life is in his hands, and we're driving down the road, and we hit it running too. I did probably a poor job of preparing him for this. Like we just went right into the fire.
Landon's like, oh shit.
Oh yeah, like I even went to the BMV, and it was like, hey, I'm here. My son, he's 15 and a half. We needed our temps, and she's like, well, did you take the test? I was like, no, we haven't taken the test. He doesn't have his license. We can't take the test, and we need to drive. And she's like, no, there's an online test. It's on a computer. I said, cool. Where do I do that here? And she's like, no. You got to do it either at like the Newark location or the Johnstown location. I'm like, so you're telling me I got to take a test and I can't take it here at the BMV? And she's like, well, you can take it online, like on your computer. And I'm thinking like, well, Landon, he's got a computer through school. We'll do that, right? So we go out there, and he's like, Dad, I found the website. It was a frustrating moment for me personally with Pam or whatever her name was at the BMV.
Yeah, Pam.
It was Pam. And I was like, Pam, so you're telling me I got to take this test, but you can't give me the website that I need to go to. It's just frustrating, right? So we figured some things out. He gets his temps. you know, we got to go out and drive 50 hours. You know,
Did you really take him for the 50 hours? Because
we were close.
I mean, I should say it's on
a
the air,
lot.
but I'm like, I signed that
Yeah,
that notarized document. I don't know if it's 50 hours. I mean,
stamp.
it was 150 hours. It wasn't 50, but yeah. The worst part of Ohio is the mobility test.
Yeah.
Like that is like, I don't know if it's more scarring for the kid or the parent the first time you do that. Like that, have you know what I'm talking? In Ohio, they have you got to put some cones out and 6, and they got to do this backing through stuff. And as a parent, when your kids learn to drive, it's like, I sent you to this driving school.
Yeah.
They come back and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. You're like,
So the
thanks,
driving
Pam.
school
No,
was online.
Yeah, and you got it online. You got
It was online, and it was like a 24-hour class. And those cones we set up in my driveway. Like, we practiced a lot at home, and I made him every day. He'd go out and he would practice the cones.
So did you bring the cones in, or did you go standard? That's the argument I have in my house. There's the standard of how far they're going to go. I move them in like 3 inches on each side.
Like medicine ball theory. Like,
yeah, like if you fucking can do it, then like it's going to be easy. So it went perfect with my oldest son, my middle son, Nate.
Yep.
Him and I got into a huge fight,
name, by the way.
Orange High School parking lot. He was like, "This is not regulation. This." I'm like,
So
"Shut
he
the
knew.
fuck up!
That's
If
the
you
problem
can
with
make this, you know." What's that?
They can look it up now. Like, that's not right.
Yeah, he's out there with the tape measure. I'm like, "You don't worry about it." And then he's like, "You can't do it." I'm like, "You want to see me do it? I'm gonna do it." And freaking, you know, and then nothing's better than that. That was one of the best moments because like I wanted to look at him and be like, "Fuck you," but I was like, "See, it can be done, son. Just put your mind."
Yeah,
to it. And
he's really good. He's really responsible.
I crushed it. And then my youngest one, I wanted to go even further in. But yeah, if you go too far in, it's a bad thing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But
you really freak them out.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's such a wide thing. I was like, if you bring it in.
Yeah, it makes total sense. He's going to do just fine out there.
It worked. I got 3 kids that made it through. I never have to do that again. And I can't wait for my kids to have to do that.
Right.
Because I think it was worse than parallel parking. Like, did you have to,
So parallel parking's not a thing anymore.
But did you have to parallel park?
Yes.
So did I. That was a big thing. And I feel like that
was like the big, it was just like, ooh, parallel park. You got to, you know, it was taboo to say, right? It was tough to do, but I think I picked it up pretty good, the whole driving thing.
Yeah, I tried to parallel park the other day and it didn't go very well.
It's practice. It's not
it's one of the things you can't, you're like, oh, hope someone's watching me. And then it was actually somebody was behind me and they backed up for me. I was like, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate it. When I get
Makes
the
it a lot
backup
easier.
cameras and the beep, 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 you know, beep, you're going to hit it. Yeah, it's just like cheating a little bit.
Kind of like cheating, yeah.
A little bit.
But so you got another one to get ready to drive then?
Yes. Yep. So it's like those two are yin yang. It's amazing how you can have, I have 4 children, right? And they're just like there's just 4 totally different people. And that's wild to me. Like, my oldest is more responsible than I am, right? And then the next one's coming up. Oof, he reminds me a lot of me growing up. Like, he needs direction. And it's like he's sitting there, it's like, squirrel. Like, I asked you to take the trash out. So there's that going on. But yes, so he's getting it. He's slacking a little bit. We got to keep on him a little bit about the online course we're about to do. And then they have like an 8-hour instructor course. They got to give him the blessing from a certified, you know, $500 to go ride around this guy for a couple times.
Yeah, they went to that class and they still suck at driving. They come back, you're like, what did they teach you?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. That's a great question. But like the car that he got, this is great. So they're going to wreck the cars, right? I mean, I get it. I was a new driver. You're going to ding and dent some things. A guy at work, a buddy of mine, he's had a vehicle. It's a 1999 Honda Civic, right?
You got me beat, man. My kids are cruising. My youngest cruising around a 03 Element. Honda Element. Yeah, you just keep passing it down.
Hondas are great, right? And this thing's running strong. It's a little hard to get me in and out of it for me. You gotta just sit down and then you put your feet in, because otherwise, but it's like you're riding a golf cart and you're like this far off the ground. You're going like 35 mile an hour, but you feel like you're going 80. It's pretty sweet. It's got 190,000 miles on it, and it's just getting broken.
I think your ages aren't spaced out right though, because you're like, you gonna buy a Lima car then? Luke, is he gonna get a car? Or are they gonna share? How's it gonna work?
I don't know. Yeah, they're sharing that car.
If you didn't know that, this is what's happening right now. You're sharing.
You're not getting a car.
Yeah, because I was able to it came out perfectly for me. Like pass it down. Yeah. Now the youngest has, and I'm like, shh.
So like with me growing up, my first car was an 88 Buick LeSabre, and it was a phenomenal car. It was like a tank, blue plush interior, center console, whipped out 2 cup holders in it. It was a tank, right? My grandmother, it came down to me. She may or may not have gotten her license taken away. But the vehicle come to me, man. So that was my first car. And I remember this, I was heading into the sales, probably fresh sophomore-ish year. I don't think it lasted long. I was on my way to school. Some woman pulled out in front of me, boom, hit it. And then I hit another car and it just she gone.
Yeah, it's funny that the hand-me-down car is funny because my youngest son's a freshman and he just went back to school I think a couple weeks ago, but he's like, I'm gonna go get the oil changed on the car. He's home. I'm like, it's a couple 1,000 miles, and so it's just code word of like he's just driving to Cleveland. He's gonna be back. There's no way he's gonna put 1,000 miles on it in the month, but it's code word of like, hey, while you're here,
Hey,
I can
you
go
need
pay
a
for it. You're paying for it. So he takes my oldest son with him to go to Battalion. I'm just like, oil change.
Yep.
What do you think the bill is gonna be oil change?
Oil change at a Battalion?
2003, like you're thinking like 60, 70 bucks, right?
Yeah, $50.
Yeah. Come home, they have the receipt folded,
Oh boy.
and my youngest one hands it to me, and I'm just like, what is this? They're like, and one of them says something about being $300. I'm like, are you what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and they're always messing with me.
Yeah.
Grab it, $370. I'm like, what the fuck? So somehow with my son in the car, my oldest son, who's a nurse, by the way, we always give him a hard time.
Immerse.
They replaced the rear windshield wiper blade. Somehow they didn't ask for that. I was like, the answer is no, take it the fuck off. I don't want it. They replaced one of the windshield wiper blades. So that was like $80 right there. I was like, Jesus Christ. And then they somehow convinced me the transmission fluid needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
They were like, and I was like, I was so angry.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? But like and so then it's a joke we'll make, like pre-Saul Che would have said a lot of stuff, but post-Saul Che walked away like, okay, it is what it is. And then I'm like, how does this, the answer is no. Like, and it was just a second. My wife's like, oh, they do that to you. I'm like, the answer is no. Like, I want my fucking oil change. So then my youngest son says, well, I've seen you before and you got stuff, you know, you got the windshield wiper blades with. I'm like, well, I have a company car. So like, I'm not really worried about the $4. I have to put it through that anyways. I can't go do it myself. It's a different thing. Like I can't. Yeah. And he was just like, and the look on his face. And he couldn't wait to get back to Notre Dame College because he was like, oh my God, my dad's going to kill me. I'm like, $370. And then I'm like,
I'd have been
I'm like,
fuming.
what
I'd have been fuming.
Dude,
But that's life, right?
Yeah,
They go out and you know, you make
lesson
choices,
learned.
Lesson learned. Hopefully, right? If the lesson's not learned, it makes for a long life.
the lesson learned, don't send your oldest 23-year-old son to do anything of responsibility is what my lesson I learned.
Or don't give him your card, right?
I did get a couple free meals out of it from him after that. So we're probably almost even with it, with Ben's paying
If you
it
didn't
back.
give him the card, it wouldn't have been. It'd have been like, no, I can only afford the $29.99 hot special.
I couldn't believe that because they fuck with me so much because I fuck with them. And when they handed that, I was like, they're kidding, right? And I was like, what the?
No, it's real.
I mean, it's like pause the TV. Like, what just happened here? Like, so watch out for that.
Deal.
Landon, Luke.
Note to self: you cannot have the card.
Yeah, don't send them to Battalion on their own.
Good to know.
Or send a real adult, which is good. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's get back and we're just cruising along here. Let's have a good time here. What are you drinking over there? The Horse Soldier? You want to do that now? Let's do it now before we get into the Marine Corps stuff. We'll hit the first featured whiskey.
Sure. So
You're already drinking it.
This is the Horse Soldier Forged in Fire. So when you reached out to me, you're like, hey, what kind of booze are you gonna bring? And I was like, you know what? It's a great question. I don't dabble in this very much.
Right.
Like my go-to is probably like a Jim Beam Black, right, and some Coke maybe. Like, so dabbling into fancy things, not my forte. One of the guys that I work with, he understands the mission, right? And he said, oh, dude, Horse Soldier, you gotta, and he starts talking about it, and I look it up, and I'm like, company owned by veterans, check, right? And I start reading the back, 9/11, the parts and pieces on the front of the bottles forged from pieces of steel from the buildings. I was like, this is perfect, right? So it kind of tied into my story of like what drove me to get in the military. So I thought that was really, really cool. It was kind of like an aha moment for me.
But they had the wrong one that you wanted, though.
Of course, right? They don't have that $50.
He was all into it, and he's like, hey, they didn't have the one I wanted. Shit. But luckily we came in there. Have you had this one before, ever?
No, no.
We'll open up another one here when we get done some other ones. So Nate did a good job. We'll just elaborate a little bit more. But Horse Soldier is actually made by American Freedom Distillery, which is located in St. Petersburg, Florida. Like Nate said, it's actually launched by 3 former U.S. Special Forces soldiers who were actually part of ODA 595, which were actually the first ODA team that was into Afghanistan, and they're made famous by the movie 13 Strong.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that, Nate over there, you probably haven't seen it. If you've seen 13 Strong, God damn, every time there's a movie that comes on, it's just, I'm at a loss of words of what he's never watched of that. I don't know what he's doing, but But what was cool about them is their clandestine mission marked the first time that U.S. forces rode to war on horseback since World War II. They were hand selected from the 5th Special Forces Group, and they later became known as the Horse Soldiers. If you see the logo here, the logo on the front here is actually the Horse Soldiers. Pretty well-known monument. It's actually at the World Trade Center. It honors them. But their journey began in 2014 when the distillery was opened. Right now, all the distillate is being distilled at Middle West in Columbus. It might have changed. They just bought some land, and they're building a new location in Somerset, Kentucky. So most likely the one we're having is when they we're getting distilled out of here at Columbus. So did you know it was a Columbus thing? Yeah, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people don't. And what's cool about that, like Nathan talked about, all the bottles are forged with a forge that was the steel that was from the World Trade Center, and then all of the proceeds that they have go towards the America's Response Monument in Liberty Park at the World Trade Center. So great product, great mission, great movie. If you haven't seen it, Nate and 2 other people who haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a great movie. You ever seen the movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I was gonna be like, but we're having Horse Soldier Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is not age stated. It's at least 2 years old. It's 87 proof. The mash bill 65% corn, 30% rye, and 5% malted barley.
It's fantastic. It touches your lips. It's so good.
It's so good on your lips.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to have a new one because these are the older ones too that I've had. I've had this one probably like. We got some stuff up there with some Horse Soldier memorabilia, and some good news about Horse Soldier. We actually are, the folks at Horse Soldier. What distributor did you pick that from?
Southern Glacier.
Southern Glacier? Yeah, so we got some great bottles from Southern Glacier. We're going to be auctioning those off at our silent auction. Also, they hooked us up a lot, so we're probably going to have some other specials online on the group and opportunity to win some really cool bottles. If you haven't had Horse Soldier, like Nate said, it's a great story. Great. It's actually it's really good whiskey. I think it's kind of like it's not really super well known.
Than Jim Beam Black. No.
He took a huge step up.
Yeah.
Jimmy Black's not bad though.
101. That's kind of like my go-to.
Dude, Wild Turkey 101's great though. Come on.
It is. That barrel and bonded, the white bottle, Evan Williams. Yeah, it's a go-to.
Nathan's over there like,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to hook up some good stuff before he leaves tonight.
Right, yeah,
You're gonna get some good stuff and probably some bad stuff, but it's 12 strong. Yeah, it is right. It's 13 strong. Somebody correct me. That's probably right.
12 strong.
Did you? 12, 13. It's close enough.
Baker's does.
But so we'll move on. So you did talk about we talked about some stuff since then, but you did allude to a lot of people. You joined the Marine Corps Reserves.
Yep.
Why reserve not?
So going through it, I enjoy Columbus, Ohio. I enjoyed being with my family, big family, be close to home. I knew active duty, it'd be, they just, hey, where do you want to go? Here's the list. And you're going wherever you're going. So I wanted to kind of stay local, stay in touch with my family, stay in touch with my friends. And that was kind of the determining factor for reserves versus active duty.
So Nathan goes 0311 infantry.
Yeah, so that's another funny thing. Like my brother was 0311. Right? Now I know, like that is the bottom of the total. So like, I didn't even know you have an option for like, what do you want to do? Like, it's like I want to be 0311. The guy's like, here, sign the paper.
Yeah, they didn't even blink. They're like, here you go, buddy.
Yeah, just sign this, man. You go see the world, right? So I didn't really do much research on like, hey, you could do different jobs in the military, right? I just knew I was based off my brother. I just like infantry. That's what I want to do, right? And crazy story here is talking to the recruiters and stuff. I had a couple people from DeSales, kind of same boat, two of my buddies, Nick Flynn and Ryan Miller. There was a couple other guys, Ryan Ash, Trevor was another guy. He was like an Eagle Scout. Not like looking back, like Eagle Scouts, they are legit, big deal, right? So he kind of joined, and I think by being an Eagle Scout, they bump you up a rank or two, right? It's a pretty big deal. But we all went through boot camp together. Coming home, that was one of the things. I want to be a part of Lima Company. My brother was there. I wanted Lima Company, and military at its best. My order said like you're reporting to Dayton, and I'm like, that's weird. That's not Rickenbacker. We were at the DSCC at the time, and it was odd, right? My report paper is like, I got to get a uniform, and I'm going over to this one, and I look it up. And it's like, this is a mortuary affairs. It's an MP unit in mortuary affairs. It's like, I don't even know what that is. So, right. So we go up there, and my buddy Nick Flynn, and we're showing up. We're all staying attention. And there was a first sergeant there. We met him. He was ginormous. He was just like 8 foot tall, handshakes, and, you know, you'll be picking up dead bodies, women, children, hearts. You know, if you got a problem with this, you just let me know right now. And I'm like,
I do.
I'm supposed to be with Lima Company 325. And he's like, what? And he's looking through the paperwork and stuff, right? And this is like one of the rare times the military like fix something really quick. By next drill, I was going with
Yeah, they're
Lima.
like,
You're like, oh, we did, yeah.
oh shit, we fucked
here.
up. This guy's not supposed to be here.
Right. So that was kind of cool. And then we were at the DSCC for a little bit, and then we moved out to Rickenbacker with the Navy unit. Was our drill center.
Yeah, so Nate got assigned to Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines. Pretty well known company known as Lucky Lima.
Yeah.
However, unfortunately, in 2005,
feel lucky, but yeah, lucky.
2005, it changed pretty dramatically for that. But really well known in the state of Ohio. If you're in Ohio and you don't know who Lucky Lima is, I don't know where you've been for the past
it was
15,
crazy. It was like,
so.
we were over there kind of doing our thing, and communications are weeks behind, and we really didn't have access to phones. Like, they gave us some satellite phones sometimes when some dudes died, like, hey, call your family, let them know you're not dead. So there was a big communication gap there. Mail was way behind. But like, coming home, I will never, ever forget this day. Like, I forget a lot of stuff, especially a lot of things overseas like that. It just kind of all jumbles. But like, the day we came back, we flew into Port Columbus, the air squadron place where they kind of hooked us up at. Coleman, mayor at the time, his son was also part of the unit, JD. And we got on this bus as it was raining that day. And by the time we pulled out of the airport and went all the way back to the drill center, Rickenbacker, the streets were lined up. People, I mean, it was raining, and there was just people to support, signs, kids, classrooms. It was amazing. You know, grown men crying on that bus was kind of cool.
Yeah, so Lucky Lima, the unfortunate thing that we'll hopefully we can talk about a little bit more is that they lost 22 Marines and 1 corpsman. I think and 16 of them were, or 20 of them were actually in the 2 IEDs, right?
Sure.
Close like that. So it was 2 huge IEDs that took a bunch of Marines' lives and changed the whole deployment. The deployment was going pretty well in the beginning, and then it went really bad. So that's what Nate's missing out, is like there was a lot of, 23 Ohio men did not come back from that. So what do you remember about that deployment? Some things are jarred about it. Like what do you remember?
I remember the very first time I was in a firefight. Okay. Right. Oddly enough. Now I couldn't sit here and tell you the city it was, and that just kind of all jumps together. But like, it's like a movie when it happened. It was late at night, and I remember like transformer box was blowing up. RPG came and hit one of the AAVs, the amphibious assault vehicle, that was like a school bus, and it would take us from point A to point B. Rocket come and hit that thing. Next day, I remember I looked at, there was like a hole through the front of it, which was like a really heavy armored vehicle, and it like had all the sprawl from the RPG. It's hot. Like, if you've never been in the military, or if you've never been into Iraq or a country in the desert, it's hot, and if you tell your typical person, like, oh yeah, it's hot, you can't fathom how hot it was. Like, hot. And
too hot.
It was crazy, right? So it was like a hairdryer and a fan blowing on you, 100, I think the highest temperature was like 120, 121 degrees, right? You go on top of one of the tar roofs, and you could only be up there for like 10 minutes before you're passed out. Like, it was hot. Oof. You drink 6 gallons of water, still peeing yellow. Hot. That was not fun. People say third world countries, it's bad, right? We went to some places where some dudes were living out of houses of mud, rock, no electricity, surviving every single day, right? Somebody steals their chicken, they're probably going to die because they don't have food for the next couple of days. Like, we're just so spoiled here in America, like the opportunity and the amount of things that we have, crazy. That was one of the things kind of coming back home is, just to see you can survive without a McDonald's on every block down the road. Or
what about Starbucks though?
No. So I'm not a huge fan of Starbucks.
I'm joking.
During that deployment, so like a lot of company, we would reach out to coffee places like, I love coffee, and that came from being in the military. And some people would send us some coffee and stuff, but not a big fan of Starbucks.
Are you a black coffee guy?
Yeah. So I'll take it anywhere I can get it, really. But yeah, black coffee, drink it. I remember stirring up coffee grounds and put it in hot water. I mean, you didn't even have to heat the water up. You could just grab it, right? It's hot. You can make ramen noodles too. I remember making a lot. I can make ramen
put it on
noodles
something, yeah.
a lot of different ways, and they're pretty good. I think I got pretty good at making some ramen.
The Middle East is hot, that's for sure.
We were at Haditha Dam. Haditha Dam, I think it supplied like 60% of the country's electricity. And I found that out. I got zapped with some 220. I was finagling with one of the outlets, right? And you have to have like these converters. It just don't plug in like a normal 110, right? So you had to plug this thing in, it was a converter, and then you could plug your American stuff in. And, you know, I'm making ramen noodles from like something that boils water, and it, you know, and I was messing with this thing, man. And it got me, like getting shot at, all this stuff, blown up, and it's like, yeah, the electricity got him.
He took off.
Right? You know what I
He
mean?
took out all the electricity for
Right.
a town for
I
like
hope
3
they would've
hours.
made that sound a lot better if I come home in a box, right? That was miserable, right? The dam itself, I think it was guarded by the Azerbaijanis, which is like a group of people. There was a huge communication gap there, and I remember they'd be stationed with like 50 cows at the gates and stuff. So we would go on patrols a couple miles out in the desert, and you know, we would come back, and there was like code words, and it changed all the time. But there was always a very pucker effect coming back because those dudes didn't ask questions. It was like 10 stories high was the dam, but then it went like 30 below. And they said, if you go below sub 2 or whatever, like they'll just kill you. They don't ask questions. Do not go down there. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't go down there. Right? But we lived on a floor level. And I remember, like, if you wanted to use the telephones, there was a handful of telephones up there, a couple of computers, which was a joke, you know, kind of back in '05. But you'd put your name in this logbook, right? You'd hump up 6 stories. You put your name in this logbook, and like maybe in 7 or 8 hours, you'd gauge how many pages you're in, right? Because we weren't at the dam very much. We were out and about a lot. But if you wanted to chat with, you know, the real world back home, it was, you had to wait in line, and you'd go up there, you'd put your name on the book, and you'd check it every so often. Like 4 hours go by, you're like, I need to see where I'm at. Because if they skip your name, you're done. There's no like, hey, Nate, right? If they skip your name, you don't call it, they just move to the next one, and that's, you know, second verse, same as the first all over again. But going on the phones and stuff, you know, it's hard not to cuss a lot because I'd be talking to my little sisters or my family members, and it's like, yeah, this guy, you know,
This Iraqi national.
So that was tough, but it made me miss home more, right? I liked talking to my family, but at the same time, it really made me homesick. So, you know, there was times where it was like, you know, rough. We just had a rough week, or we were out there and some stuff happens. Like I don't even want to keep going. You know, it sometimes would put me in a worse place by, you know, hey, what's going on at home? Oh, so and so happened. We had this party, and it's like, oh, what'd you do? Like, getting shot at. You know, it wasn't fun at all. Like I said, we were out of the dam a lot. We went on a lot of different missions. A couple weeks. I think the longest I didn't take showers, you know, over a couple weeks. Showers were rough too. Porta johns, like toilets. That's a thing that I didn't think I'd ever take for granted. Like, they don't have toilets there, right? Their bathrooms is a hole in the floor, and you know, they don't use toilet paper. They're wiping with their hands, right? There's a little splash thing that goes on there, on like a handmade bidet kind of thing. So that was rough, right? So we would have to figure out good ways to, you know, put up some cinder blocks, ladder. You know, you're taking a dump, and there's Iraqis just kind of walking in front of you, or it's kind of makeshift places to use the restroom where you could actually sit, because there's only so long you can stand, and your legs start shaking a little bit. But yeah, so having a restroom, that really sucked. Not having a toilet. We had porta johns, which was horrible. I still don't like going to the porta johns to this day. Like, if it was hot outside, it's 120 degrees. You know, let's just say it was 100 degrees. You go in a porta john, it's like 120 inside that thing. That's got a little microwave, and you go in there, and you're sweating. You're sweating pretty good.
Yeah, and then people are messing with you. The Porta John's notorious for people, you know, dropping MRE bombs down the pops. You know, I might know somebody who did that, or
right,
or pushing 2 Humvees together to keep somebody in there when it's 130 degrees. I mean, I've heard of that. I've never done that personally, but that's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I think anybody that's deployed overseas, especially that region, and the same time frame as you do, you get a pretty good appreciation for how good we have in the States.
Yes.
I think a lot of people that complain about the States, you get shipped over there for like a week and might adjust their attitude a little bit.
Oh,
actually, it should be like 3 months, make them really painful.
We did a one of our drills, the 2-week drill thing, the month drill during the summer. Israel, Right when I got on with Lima Company, we headed over to Israel. Israel, everybody goes in there 2 years, male, female, didn't matter. And then when they go, they're like, that ain't for me, right? They try to get out of that. They don't mess around. They will go find you. They don't mess around in Israel.
I think there's other countries like Israel, Korea, South Korea, the same thing.
Yeah,
I think it's 2 years.
mandatory. Now I think that would take some of the hoorah kind of out of the military. Like if they're forcing you to do it, I don't think it would be the same. But I think it would still get across the point of we got it made. Made.
It's definitely an eye opener. I mean, you definitely grow to appreciate a lot of things that you didn't appreciate before, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So you got all this stuff that's going on personally. You guys lose a bunch of friends and
Yep.
fellow Marines. Like how are you processing that when you're over there at the time?
When you're over there, you're not. Me personally, I didn't process it. Right, it's just happening. You don't have time to process it, or I didn't have time to process it. Excuse me. So like all this stuff's happening, and it's not like we're hashing this stuff out. Or like, hey, So there's a lot of emotions that just get kind of boil up. Right, they're just kind of shoved down to a deep, deep spot. And I think for me coming home, it took me a minute to transition to the civilian world, right? Again, it wasn't going long, but there were certain things like things that happened over there that really impacted. Like if you didn't follow these rules over there, you're dead, right? So something like we didn't drive we drive in the middle of the road. Why? Well, because IEDs are on the left or the right. So the middle is the most safe place to be because if the thing goes off, you're in the center of the road, right? So like coming home, I'm the center of the road. Like even on the freeway, I'm like the center of the road, like just because it's like ingrained. Or I won't drive over trash like here, right? Because it's just like there's been instances where you think it's a pop can or something, or you drove over the one incident where the AAV hit. We were on our way to a mission. We weren't even stopping at this place, and it was a roadway. And one of our primary missions over there in Iraq was to train the Iraqi forces. So that was a big role that we had. Well, the problem with that is the Iraqis had like S-10s from 1982, right? Like all the crappy cars. Well, the crappy cars couldn't go 40 miles an hour in the desert like our AAVs or our tanks. All of our vehicles, the Humvees. So we were driving on the roadways, and this one they paved right over the top of it, like you couldn't even tell, but it was like 10 African 155, a lot of kaboom going on there, and that was a very sucky day for me personally. The track got hit, it blew up, flipped it upside down, cut it in half-ish a little bit. The driver survived. Like seeing the aftermath the next day, that was like, it was chaos, right? Well, that happened. We were near a city. Somebody set that thing off. It was pretty chaotic for the next 24 hours. The next day we woke up. One of the most difficult things that I've ever done, is the next day they said, hey, we need help. We got to go out there. We're going to go pick up all of our dudes, right? So there was a bunch of them in there, and it was other people kind of volunteering. Hey, yeah, I'll go out there. So going out there and just kind of, you picking up body parts and throwing them in bags, and you don't know who's who or what's what, was rough, for sure. IEDs were a big thing over there. Mortars, we got mortared all the time, right? We were at Haditha Dam, and those things would come. I remember that the day we were leaving, and I had a little calendar, and I'm marking days off, and we're leaving, and the helicopters come on there. We're on top of the dam, and we start getting mortared. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? And the guys who were relieving us were, everyone's running. And you could go on the outside of the dam, and it was a steep, like, incline to get on the top. And I accumulated way more crap than I thought from being over there. And I'm just dragging it all up there, heading to the helicopters. I'm like praying to God that these helicopters don't leave. And mortars are kind of going off, and they usually weren't close at all, but these ones were they were a little closer than normal. I think they were
like, we got something for you fuckers when you leave now.
Yeah, so they'd come. They had them up back of trucks, right? And they'd bring the trucks, and they get close enough, and they're out in the desert, and we'd send groups out there to kind of do a look for them. But yeah, it sucked big time.
So we'll talk about, you done talking about deployment there?
Yeah.
Anything more? Sound like you had a great time. Did you lift any weights while you're over there?
Yeah, I mean, not really. Our deployment was very, there wasn't much time to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Even when we were at our base, which was Haditha Dam, and we had another group of guys that kind of for the first, I think, 2 months. They were kind of helping out elsewhere, a group of guys, mostly some weapon guys. But we would kind of rotate. And during the rotations, you know, one would kind of stay back, and two forces, like we'd be in a city or village or we'd be doing patrols, and one would be kind of like the QRF. And we kind of rotated, right? So you'd be there for maybe a week, and then you go out for a week or two, and then it was just these rotations. And then our mission to not only training the Iraqi forces was, you know, go find bad guys, go find weapons, things they shouldn't be having. So a lot of it was, hey, here's a village, here's a city, we're gonna clear it, right? We're looking for bad guys, we're looking for weapons and things that they shouldn't have. So that was interesting. You know, it was long days, and we would kind of work our way through the city depending on how big the cities were. And that night we, you know, we'd sleep and, you know, kind of commandeer homes. And, you know, I think they give them vouchers like, hey, you know, we kick doors, right? We were going over, we're kicking doors. Or at first we started knocking, right? Like, Marines, you know, open up, you know, till AK-47 fired through and killed, you know, one of the guys. So we're like, hey, maybe knocking on doors isn't a great idea. So, you know, we learned, right? So that kind of changed the way that we approach these houses and stuff. It's something, you know, that I do try not to think about. You know, it went away. You know, there are times where it comes up, or there's times of the year where I think about it. You know, it makes me sad. Going through that Saul program. Have you ever heard of that, Saul Save a Warrior?
I have, yeah.
Cool. I went through that. That was phenomenal. I would recommend.
I'm a few years behind you, but
Okay, perfect.
What's your code number again?
157. 157.
I'm 222.
222. Okay. Yep. So going through that was a big, like, I didn't realize some of the things affected me the way they did, right? Like, I'm fine, right? Like, going through a program like that really opened up the box, if you will. And it kind of, it changed my life, oh my gosh, for the better, which was really, really cool experience. But yeah, I like my kids and stuff, we don't really talk Iraq or stories. I remember coming home, my wife now, Stacy, was like, hey, our kids are never going to grow up and join the military. And I said, honey, I understand what you're saying. I get that coming, right? Because it was hard on her too, me being gone. And what I explained to her was, honey, listen, if our kids, I've never pushed for it, but I said, if our kids ever approach us and say, hey, Dad, you know, I was thinking about joining the military, excuse me, I'd sit them down and have some conversations with them. I would give them a bit of a heads up of what they're getting themselves into, right? I'll tell them some stories. I'll show them some pictures. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is what you're kind of getting yourself into, right? And I said, if they still want to go that direction, I said, then I would be honored if they chose that. But the only way I will ever go back to Parris Island is if my kids graduate there, because that was rough, right?
Screw Parris Island.
Like, going through it, you don't understand, you know, you have to sit here, you can't use the back, you have to eat non-dominant, you can't whack away at the sand fleas, let them eat, you just ate, right? You don't understand, you think they're just playing with you, these mind games, right? You know, you go there, you're not sleeping for the first couple of days, you're like, what is going on, right? Everyone's sitting like, you're like, you know, and it's like the logistical stuff, they're passing out, well, looking back at it, right, everyone's coming from these different time zones, so they're breaking everybody down, they're not letting you sleep because they want everybody on the same page, right? So there's things like that. But man, yeah, Parris Island was non-pleasant for me, right? And there was even, I remember going in there, and I was there with a couple of my buddies too. Yeah. There's just some wild things happening. I'd laugh a lot, right? The drill instructor would be saying some off-the-wall things. Like, they say they're not allowed to hit you no more, but it was always like, if anybody asks you, it's like, sir, this group got struck by lightning, sir. So there was some shenanigans to be had.
Just about to say that, shenanigans.
I would be
Marines have the best name. I just sent him a meme about, or a clip about that, and this guy was going over all these Marine Corps terms. There's like 7 of them, and it was like shenanigans. And I'm like, where the fuck is Marine Corps? There's no human being other than you guys that even know what. I mean, who is saying the word? I mean, shenanigans I've heard before, but like, I mean, it's like a common word. Like, what are you guys doing in here causing trouble? Like you guys like, what's up with your fucking shenanigans? Like, I mean, just everything's like, I mean, I get it. I mean, I've never heard anybody say that Paris Island was fun. No. I mean, you have to be a total psychopath.
I'll probably make my way down there at some point in my life, but there's no urgency for that at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if the kids did join, what if they didn't join the Marine Corps? Would you be okay with that?
I'm pushing Air Force, right? Like,
oh wow, okay.
I want to get education. Like, getting out of the Marines, it's like to go into the civilian world. What am I? You know, my education level's not the highest, right? So coming back into the civilian world, it's like, well, what are you going to bring to the table?
You're like, hey,
chase bank. Well, you know, I was on deployment. I can shoot a gun really good.
I can run really fast. I like to blow up shit.
Right. Those things just don't apply. So I think something like the Air Force. You know, I'm going to explain to them there's jobs in the military, right? Like you can pick and choose something that interests you. Like, oh,
you're still not over that. You're like,
right, we can do intelligence, right? Yeah. So I would try to push them of a more, I support you doing the military thing, but also too, I want a good transition to if you decide to come back to the civilian world and not like do military full time, something that would set them up for success in the military, coming back into the civilian world.
Yeah, somebody asked what years. I think it was 2005. You were over there. That's correct. When Lima Company was in Iraq. Yeah, but it's funny we talk about that with kids. As my youngest son just broke it on me that he's got a bad elbow, so he can't join the military. But he was like, when he was home this before he ran up the $370 car bill. But he was like, hey, I would have joined the Marine Corps, but if it wasn't my elbow, I was like, what? He was like, yeah, definitely Marines. And I was like, are you fucking with me? He's like, no. He's like, I'd have been a Marine. I was like. And now there's a part of me that was like,
we do have the best unit.
But I was like, he would have been a kick-ass Marine, my youngest son. I could see it, but I was like, I could see that. But there's a part of me that was like, why?
Yeah. Why would you want to do that?
Why, son? Why? But no, it's. I think anytime, I feel the same way as your wife does. I don't, you know, I think I'm through it. When something happens, but I'm kind of glad my kids didn't carry on the military tradition personally, just with all the stuff that I know now.
But again, if I didn't, you know, go down that path, right, and it was horrible, would I do it? People are like, would you do it again? Yes, I would, because if I didn't, if I made different choices, me and you wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation right now.
No, 100%. I think there's also a time frame where we talk about, like, you know, 20 some years at war and all that kind of stuff. The world has changed, but yeah, I wouldn't change it for me, but for them, I just, you know, I'm looking out for them. Yeah. What's that?
Different times for them, I think, right? The military.
No, 100%. I mean, yeah, it's a different thing. I wouldn't change anything about me. I would do the same thing. I would never join the Marine Corps. I'd stay in the Army. Yeah. 100% of the time, but, I don't care. Fucking Gabe, join the Marine Corps, see what happens. You know, but it's just for me. I just know, like, it's made us who we are as people, but it's just, I'd rather them be different people. Does that make sense? Yep. You know what I mean? I love them. I'd rather them have different life lessons and see things from a different lens. Yep. So I'm kind of glad I made through that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to handle Gabe coming back from Paris Island, just talking shit. Like,
yeah, Jack.
That's what he's saying. I'm like, I can just see him coming back, like, "Hey, everybody!" No,
I'm gonna go get a new truck. Right, you're making big bucks now.
Oh my god, he would have made a great Marine though. I'm sure he would have been funny, but I just would have never heard the end of it. That's the only thing I care about. So let's get serious here. You talked a little bit about it, but you come back from the deployment. Yep. Streets are lined. You come home. In the back of your mind, when does it start creeping in that, you know, you left some people over there that didn't come back?
Pretty heavy, pretty quick.
Yeah,
for sure. I still remember, like, you getting off the bus. We got off at Rickenbacker Troop Drill Center, and like the first questions. You know, I'm not a big fan of the media. You know, how many people did you kill? Right, like that was the first thing. You know, and that's not kind of what I want to talk about or discuss, but it soaks in, and it soaks in pretty quick. Growing up, I've always had a job. I've always worked at a young age. My father owned a construction company, so I was a real youngin', you know, going to work with dad and family. So I've had a job for a long time. So coming back home, I got a job fairly quickly, and a woman who's very, very high up in Chase Bank hooked me up with a sweet gig. And I realized I could only last about 9 months sitting behind a desk. Like, I was going nuts. Like, my mind was still going a million miles an hour. Things didn't make sense to me. I'd be sitting there just staring at a screen, like, you know, thinking about, what am I doing? I'm sitting here, I'm looking at people's, I was a risk analyst, or, you know, when somebody swiped your card, hey, did you make this transaction, right? Before they had the cool technology of text messaging. This just happened to me. My card just got scammed. Or,
It's probably Joe.
Yeah, probably. But back then it was like you monitored people's accounts. It's like, hey, did you make 27 transactions at Walmart today? You know, did you buy
In in Alabama and you live in Ohio? No, that wasn't me.
Did you get 20 tanks of gas today? It was like, it was like these red flags, right? And I'd be the dude calling on the phone, be like, hello, this is Nathan. Jake, did you make these purchases? Or it'd be like, first off, I just need to verify a couple things with you. Like, and I just called you. Hey, I need to verify a couple things with you. What's your date of birth? And it'd be like, you know, you tell me your birthday, you know, July 10th. I'd be like, oh, okay, awesome. What's your social security number? They'd be like, wait a minute, who are you? Right? I'm with Chase Bank, you know, and it'd be like, listen, if you don't believe me, call the number on the back of your card, right? So that was kind of my gig, right? And it didn't last long. It didn't last long.
I probably hung up on people like that before. I know it did one time when it ended up being legitimate.
It was probably a step up of being like a telemarketer, right? Like, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
You did have a good voice there when you did that, though. Yeah. Like, we're wondering about your transactions in Las Vegas.
Did you make any transactions in Las Vegas?
For $1,000. That was not me.
You did an oil change today that cost you $368.
It was 378, I think, or something. I still can't believe. Why keep bringing that up, Nate?
My bad.
No, it's all right.
My voice is a little off. I've had a little.
That is a good voice, though. You're like, it's very soothing. Like, I'm gonna let you read some stuff on the thing. I'm like, oh yeah, look at that.
Wars with Patriots.
Ooh, put me to sleep over here. I like it.
Yeah. But yes, the transition, getting back into the workforce. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit behind a desk. I realized that very, very quickly. But it was a good job, and I was getting paid good money. And the things that I really didn't take, I took for granted, right? Like the retirements and the healthcare was phenomenal, right? At Chase Bank, it's a big, big corporation. But you know, I gave that up. Had a couple of odd end jobs here and there. I think one was in telemarketing. That was a mess. It was miserable. You know, that's not a pleasant thing to happen. Like the rejection, you're like calling all these people, and you know, that was horrible. Real estate, dabbled in that a little bit. Met a Marine guy that I still keep in touch with today through real estate. I was just kind of like a peon, and you know, I took care of like, hey, go put the for sale sign over on Wagner. You know, I kind of just did the odd end jobs. Hey, go take the photos for the MLS, and I did that for a while. And then it was just like I was just kind of floating. I didn't know what to do, and father-in-law of mine, or not my father-in-law, my brother's father-in-law, he was a police officer, rank lieutenant at a department. And he's like, hey, why don't you become a cop? I'm like, I never really thought about it. He's like, yeah, dude, you know, go. So he guided me through the process, which I'm very, very blessed and fortunate that he did. Going through schooling for a police officer. Like I don't have any college. I went to the Delaware Area Career Center. They do cop school through Apata.
I love how he calls it cop school. It's actually the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy.
For 6 months.
But he's like cop school. I went to cop school.
Yeah, for 6 months, they teach you how to be a cop, and then they're like, here you go. Here's the keys to the city.
You can go anywhere you want.
Right. So going through cop school, I met a really good friend of mine at the sheriff's office, David Arriaga, who was also going through cop school. And we're both sitting there. He was with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. And I was not a police officer. I was going through cop school to become a cop. He was already a cop. And the way it works at the sheriff's office is you can get hired in without cop school, right? But you got to go through cop school if you want to carry a gun. So like you could do the jail, but you're limiting what you could do in divisions if you don't go through OPATA, right? Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy. To, you know, this is how you shoot a gun. You do qualifications with the gun, driving, legal, you know, all this stuff. So I went through cop school, started putting out my applications everywhere and anywhere. And Johnstown Police Department calls back and says, hey, you know, we have an opening position here. Would you be interested? It's just a part-time thing. Like, it's not a job. There is an opening, but there's a couple other people have their name in the hat, and they've been trying to get this one job position. Said absolutely. So I went to Johnstown. They swore me in.
He was like, let me think about it. I'm going to say this.
Yeah, they swore me. Well, I remember during the interview process, it was kind of crazy. Don Corbin was the chief of Johnstown Police Department. Phenomenal human being. He's a retired Columbus police officer, SWAT team guy. Just real old school, sweet mustache, right? White. Dude ran like 20 miles a day. Phenomenal human being. And I remember going through that process at Johnstown Police Department to get that full-time position, which I wanted to get the full-time position. I want to be a cop. And I'm sitting there, and it was like I was in an interrogation room, and I'm on one side of the table, and you got these three dudes on the opposite side of the table. Excuse me. One being the chief, a sergeant, and another officer, right? And this is like, they're asking the questions. Hey, what would you do in this situation? Hey, what are you going to do here? Hey, this happens. How are you going to respond? And I remember they would rotate. It would be like question, answer, and it went to the chief. And he goes, let me ask you a question. And he goes, says here, you're in the Marines. I said, yes, sir. I was in the Marines. And he goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, if another agency offered you, let's just say, $10 more per hour, would you leave here to go to that agency?
Yes.
Right. So I sat here and I'm like, ooh, that's a good question, right? Like I'm asking them to hire me. At the same time, you're asking me.
This is a trick question.
Yeah, this is a double-edged sword, right? So I was like, yes, I would. I would leave this place for $10 extra to go to another agency. And he stands up and he is mother effing me. You son, did the Marine Corps make pussy? Are you a whore? Because that's what whores do. Whores do things for money, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, hey, he's pretty, like, he's getting into this, right? He's pretty mobile for an old man, right? And he's just yelling at me, oh, whore for like 2 minutes. And he's just sitting here screaming at me like, oh, I'm a whore, right? Oh, the only reason I'm doing this is for money, blah, 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 blah. So he gets done with his rant for like 2 minutes. And he goes, well, what do you have to say for yourself? I said, well, sir, I have a family and I have to support my family. I have to do what's financially best for my family. He goes, that's a great answer. And sat down, right? So I was there and I really enjoyed John.
Well, to mention, like, I just fucking blew this interview. Yeah.
Right. So, and I got the position, right? So I was like an A unit. An A unit means you get to work for free, right? You got to volunteer your 16 hours a month or something. But I was that for a short time, a couple weeks, a couple months, and then I got this full-time position. So now I'm getting paid $15 an hour, right? And I got the streets of J-Town, and I don't know what I'm doing, right? I went to cop school, and it's like, hey, here you go, here's your car, here's your gun, go serve law. Right, so being at Johnstown was really good group of people. It's a smaller community.
How many officers?
I think it was like 10, maybe okay. 8 to 10, somewhere around there. At the time, this was 2007-ish. Again, I apologize about any like specific dates or like.
Yeah, first of all, he's a Marine, and he's probably hit his head a few times too. So
that TBI pamphlet come out. I got 11 of these 12 symptoms. Like TBI wasn't a thing back then, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I got TBI. Was there for just shy a couple years, and. When I was going through cop school, my buddy Arriaga was like, dude, you gotta be a deputy. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know what a deputy sheriff does. He's like, dude, we make great money. Did you guys put an application?
They give you $10 more an hour.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, right. So I finally listened to him after a bit. And so I put in that application to the county. It's a little bit longer of a process, right? And the chief there, he really didn't want to be like in the blind. He really wanted to be like, open door policy, come talk to me. Like, he didn't want me to be like, hey, I'll see you later. I got a job. Here's my 2 weeks notice. So I went to him and I said, hey, listen, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I am going through the process of Franklin County, right? He's like, oh, that place is horrible. You're going to waste 10 years of your life in the jail. Right. I threw up. Last time I was in there, it's miserable, blah, 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 right? Like, oh, man. Like, he really doesn't want me to leave.
You're like, I'm taking $10 more an hour.
Right.
You know what I mean? No.
So fast forward, I went through the process. I started passing some things. I passed the psych, thank God. I go up to him and I said, hey, listen, they gave me the conditional letter of offer here. I'm just letting you know I'm going to be going to the county. And he kind of changed the demeanor right off the rip. He said, hey, this is going to be great for you. You're going to do awesome things. I kind of had told him at that time, I said, I just want a little bit more, right? This is a small little agency. I said, my long-term goal here is I want to be on the SWAT team. And he was a former CPD SWAT guy. And when I left, he gave me one of their CPD SWAT patches, which was pretty cool. And then from there, I hired on the sheriff's office, and I was in the jail for so the transition from, it's $10 more an hour, but it's like, oof, do I want to work in the jail, right? Like from hearing the stories from him, it's like, yeah, it sounds miserable. But honestly, working in the jail is a very eye-opening experience. You're dealing with the community. You're dealing with the people that you're going to when you're out in the car, right? When you're on patrol and stuff, these are the guys who just get caught and they're there.
So the bad criminals, like bad.
Yeah, I mean, so they're just. I mean,
they're not good at being criminals.
You got all walks of life in there, right? You got dudes who, DVs, and different floors have different degrees of their charges and stuff, right? So for me, I had really good people train me, and I tried to go in there with a smile on my face, like, because it was very easy to be miserable inside the jail, right? It's just there's the tasks of the day, like me and two other guys were on a post, and we're in charge of maybe like 150 inmates, and there's tasks that need to be done: the medication pass out, food pass out. For me, I just wanted more than that, personally. So I wasn't looking forward, like, yes, I'm going to be, in the jail. But looking back at it, that was a really good learning for me personally. And then I wanted to get out of jail as fast as possible. That was my goal.
Everybody wants to get out of jail.
Right? Yeah. They told me, like, there's always a timeline, and it just depends. Like, people
I'm not talking about you. I'm
retire.
talking about the inmates too. They're all like, we're going to
Everyone
get
wants to get out of jail, right? But depending on how many people retire and move on, or there's movement in the department, is when you can get out of jail, because this guy needs to leave, somebody needs to take his job, and somebody takes that job, and there's it kind of works its way back down. So I tried out for our undercover narcotics kind of thing, and I thought that would be pretty cool. Try out for that. I was probably there just over a year, and a SWAT trial come up, right? And the way they would post the jobs is on your email or something, or you could look on it and do job posting SWAT. It's like, well, that's what I want to do. And you hear a lot of times people like, don't even waste your time. They're going to do who they want. You're not going to get picked, kind of a thing. And I was like, well, it's what I want to do. I'm going to put my name in the hat. Well, I did. And the SWAT trials at the time was, you'd go in and you would do a PT, right? And I passed the PT. And the one SWAT position turned into 2 SWAT positions, right? And the next thing was shooting qualification course. And I went and did the shooting qualification course and passed that. And it's like the 2 spots turned into 3 spots. And I'm like, I think there was only like 10 people in this whole group. And I'm like, not getting my hopes up, but at the same time, it's like, this is getting better and better for me. Like, some other guys had decided they're leaving the team, and the one spot turned into more. So I ended up getting selected to be on the SWAT team, which was really, really cool. So I was in the jail 09, and then in 11, I was on the SWAT team. Now, it was kind of like my role was still in the jail, but I was able to go out and have some fun too on SWAT team. And that was a huge learning for me. It's, a lot of information coming at you, some cool stuff. And it made it that much more harder for me personally to work in the jail. Because it was like, every time that I would be working at jail, and they'd be like, beep, beep, beep. This is a little bit probably after the pagers, but like your phone would go off and it'd be like, we have a call, I gotta go now, right?
Like, I'm out.
Right. So, and my supervisors didn't like that, right? Because I'm supposed to be working in jail. So, but I would go out, and do that part of it, and it just made it hard to be there at the jail. And have been doing the SWAT thing ever since. I love it. It's awesome. I was on the SWAT team for a couple of years. I was asked to join the sniper unit. I didn't do any sniper stuff like in the military. I shot some cool stuff, but never did any kind of like programs or schools. I really got into the sniper thing at the sheriff's office on SWAT team. Then fast forward probably around 2015, 2016, kind of took oversee the sniper team. And that's kind of been my focus. And I really, really enjoy it. So I just do a lot of logistical stuff, make sure we got gear, make sure we're up to date on it. What the most current stuff is out there for our guys. And there's five guys on the team right now for the sniper.
How many?
5.
How many total? Are you allowed to talk about how many total Franklin County SWAT guys there?
Sure. There's 21, including our lieutenant. So we've got kind of different shifts, right? First shift, second shift kind of thing. And I was blessed to get on first shift pretty early in my career, which people don't realize. Being a cop, being in law enforcement, the schedule it's a nightmare, right? We're like 7-Eleven. We're open up 24 hours a day, and especially when you're early on in your career, you work crappy jobs, right? You work crappy days off. That's just how it is. And the longer you're there at the department, if you work there for a year, instead of having off Wednesday, Thursdays, you might have Tuesday, Wednesdays. And then after having Tuesday, Wednesdays, you might be able to get Monday, Tuesdays, right? You always get consecutive days off, but it's like, I've been here 6 years. I got Fridays off. I got Thursday, Fridays. Like Friday's a normal day off that people can kind of chill, right? So that part was rough. I was on third shift for a bit. Third shift is not for me. I don't think a human body is meant to be on third shift. Some people do it, and I don't know how they do it. I was like a zombie. Like, I had no consistency. I would go home. I had young kids at the time, and there'd be days where I could go home. I get off at 7 a.m. in the morning. I could go home and I could sleep. Or there'd be days where it's like, hey, we got to get the kids here or there. So I wouldn't able to get sleep till like noon, which would screw up the whole thing. And yeah, third shift was no bueno.
The crazy thing about third shift is the people that go to the bar at 7 a.m. Like right after third shift.
Yeah.
You ever see those? Like, I never knew these places existed until I went on it's called Ragbri in Iowa. Yeah. The ride across Iowa. We went to this bar. Like, we're thinking we're getting there. I think it was like 8 o'clock. We're like, oh my God, this place is going to be open. My boss is like, what are you talking about? There's a factory there. And like these people, and we walked in there, it was like 8 o'clock. It was fucking packed. And I'm like, yeah. And everyone's like, we're third shift. I'm like, this happens every day. They're like, yeah, every day. And then like the new crowd, I mean, I think it's crazy that third shift is I haven't had to work that except from the military. Yeah. But my son's on that now. Nursing thing. It's not, but it's 12 and 12, so it's kind of second and third. I just tell you're not helping me. I just tell them it's fucking fine. You can do it. Yeah, you're good to do. It's no big deal, man. Just suck it up. You get an extra $2 an hour or something like that. Sure, it's totally worth Shift differential. Yeah, it's all worth it. But before we keep going, are you ready for another pour?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Have you had any Maker's Mark before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, we're gonna have hopefully we'll change it up a little bit. We're gonna. I felt obligated to pick this one because my wife and I celebrated our 25th anniversary last year, and we went on a barrel pick, and we actually picked this private barrel select. This is her recipe, so I wanted to, get your opinion on it. I was hoping you could do it blind and not tell the people up front, so you'd go like, it's not really that good. But all joking aside, I thought I'd have to give a shout out to my wife here. But we featured Maker's Mark I think one time before. But if you don't know about Maker's Mark, it's an iconic brand. I don't know where you've been if you don't know of them, but located in Laredo, Kentucky. It's owned by Beam Suntory. It was originally started by a gentleman named T. William Samuels Sr. They called him Bill. He purchased the distillery in 1953. The first run of Maker's Mark was 1958 under the brand's dipped wax seal that everybody knows. Right now, there's several different varieties that are out there for the regular Maker's Mark that you know about. The 90 proof, there's Maker's 46, there's Maker's Cast Strength, there's Maker's 101, which is right next to you there, and also the Maker's Private Barrel Select program. So this started in 2010. This is basically just Maker's Mark 46 or Maker's 46 that they take and they age 10 staves in there for an additional bit of time. What's really cool about this is those wood staves. There's 5 different staves with 10 different recipes you can come up with. I think it's 1,001 different recipes, but you can pick them. Really neat experience if you haven't been part of it. What's cool about this, unlike other single barrels, because this is considered a single barrel, you can actually recreate this recipe because Maker's 46 is Maker's. They make the same product over and over. They age at the same time. They age with the same staves, so it's pretty cool. Really fun. My wife picked this one. This was her recipe. Nice. So I hope you enjoyed as much as she did. But what's cool about these range anywhere from 107 to 114 proof. This one actually came in at 110.3, and the mash bill is like all other Maker's Mark mash bill. 70% corn, 16% red winter wheat, and 14% malt.
So that's this guy here.
Collect call from, yeah. Really fancy.
I'm gonna pour it right now.
Okay, help yourself, yeah. Knock it out.
Do you need a lick?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit.
Karate chop the microphone here.
The only acceptable answer is this is the best Maker's that you've ever had in your entire life. Okay. So my wife feels happy about it. Okay. Wow, you're pouring for me. I like this. This is like,
you're welcome.
It's special. Get your deep voice in there again.
Say when.
That's fine, man. Okay. We're good.
Right now, I'm pouring it right into the glass.
There you go.
It's so smooth as it goes across the glass.
Smooth and golden. These are definitely cool. You never had one of these before?
No.
Pretty, like I said before, it's they take Maker's 46. You pick your stave combination, put it back in the barrel for 9 weeks, and then voila. She did a good job, actually. It's not defaulted. It has 5 of the Maker's 46 staves in there, so it kind of gives a little bit more pop in it.
The horse soldier. It does. It's got a little bit more, right?
It's a little higher, a lot more higher proof. I think it would 87 to 110.
Yeah.
You have to put your big boy pants on.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they drink like Marine now instead of the Air Force earlier. But.
Right. Like, I think they do this and they get to swirl it.
It's good, though. All Maker's Mark private sex stuff is good.
I like it. She did well.
All right, so back to the jail.
Yep.
You're loving life in the jail. Craziest thing you saw in the jail while you worked there?
I can't say that on the radio.
Come on.
I Can't say that.
I mean, what's the
So that
that you can talk about?
Can't say
What's
that
the
podcast. So let me think here. Let me think. I'm gonna get a PG version. I mean, there's some wild things, right? Like dudes are coming in there and you're patting them down, right? Like lift your balls out, you know, like bend out, like they're just, whew, right? Let it go grow you up. One of the stories while I was in the jail was we were responding to a code. Code would be like, it could be a medical thing, like, hey, this person's not doing well. This particular inmate was, he was trying to grab a weapon. He was trying to get a piece of metal, right? He was trying to get this thing up there. And I was on the response team, which at the beginning of the shift, they'd kind of be like, hey, you know, your response team of this side of the building, you're on this wing, and kind of like get your assignments, right? Well, I was on this response team, right? And when you get on the response team, it's like, hey, dude goes, grabs camera, handheld, like the little VHS thing, kind of back in the day. And you're getting in like riot gear. You're like putting, I think I had a motorcycle helmet on, right? It was like a JC motorcycle helmet, put your thing down. You got these pads, you know, put things that go over. I mean, it's pretty intense, right? You get some big dudes in there, and this guy was going to town, and you know, they needed to not have him grab this weapon out because he was a very dangerous inmate at the time, and they kind of rank you to like, hey, this dude's no joke. You know, he's in isolation, meaning he's by himself. He can't be in with the rest of the community. And we went down there, and this was in booking. So booking would be like when you walk into the jail, booking is where you would take somebody who's under arrest, and then they just go through the process, right? They take the handcuffs off you, they take you to the back room, take all your clothes, give you the new inmate clothes, that whole process. So inside of booking, you have holding cells, and in holding cells, it would be a lot of like a suicide watch. If somebody's saying they're going to harm themselves, they could be monitored there because there's people 24/7. And this particular individual, yeah, I think he was on a suicide watch. He had a gown, but there was no gown. I think he was pretty what God gave him inside that cell. And you know, they're telling them, you know, they have got this thing down. Supervisors down there, hey, you know, stop, and he won't stop. The thing's kind of almost getting off, and you know, they're pepper spraying him, tasering him, just nothing's working. I think they even fogged him. Fogged him is like a higher end of a pepper spray kind of thing, and nothing's really working, right? So they're like, hey, we got to go and get him, right? So we've got gas masks on because all this
you're all coughing.
Yeah, right. So we're going in there, and it was just the dude ranting and raving that he was an Indian warrior in his previous life. And I think he was. He was totally like this dude was not.
I heard a lot of bullshit in the jail. Yeah. I'm 100% sure that was fact.
Legit. Like, and he just looked like this middle-aged man, big beer belly. But I'll tell you what, he had a fight in him. Whatever it is, he had it, right? And we were in there so long trying to just kind of get him under control, and he was just fighting the entire time. I mean, there was like it was insane, right? And you know. Somebody had their mask, their right? The tasers are going off. People are getting wrapped up in taser things. Like, what am I doing here? Like, right? We were trying
to tased the wrong guy. No,
like we all had to pull out after. I think it was like 2 minutes, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Like we were all like, we got to get out of here, right? You know, there was some things we learned from that. There were just a lot of people in this teeny little cell, and then they went in round two, and then once we were able to get them out of the cell, it was like. We could get him a pro-strength chair. A pro-strength chair is like if somebody is being very combative, or you know, we'll put in this pro-strength chair. It's pretty much like a lazy boy recliner, just with the bare bones.
Just not comfortable.
Classic. It's not comfortable at all. And it has their legs are secured right on both sides with like seat belts. It look like from NASCAR, right? You kind of cinch them in, and then their hands can kind of go behind them. And usually there was a spit involved too, because they were just very unruly. But that was a pretty wild early on in my career. Like I was still in my probationary period. Like when you become a cop at Franklin County Sheriff's Office, like if you do anything stupid in a year, it's like you're gone, right? There's no questions asked. Like just so that first year, not only you kind of had to watch, you know, you're following the rules and stuff, but you also kind of gain a reputation for yourself too. Like that first year is what these people are going to know. The rest of my department's going to know is like, hey, Nate, you know, he sits there, he doesn't do nothing, you know, he's lazy or whatever. So I always tried to be very proactive, and just, you know, if there was something that needed to be done, I just tried to go do it, right? And the more I could go do things and be busy, it just made time go by a lot faster.
So any positive memories from the jail?
Sure. Oh yeah, met, you know, a lot of good dudes, a lot of good people. I think moving from the jail to the SWAT team, like the people that I know at the sheriff's office, I know the people in the jail that I kind of hired on with, and then the SWAT team. Right? Like, I didn't go to patrol. Like, I don't have a good relationship with a lot of other divisions. Like, I just know the dudes I hired in with, really, and then the SWAT team. And I've been blessed to be on the SWAT team since 2011. And then fast forward there. So when I got on the SWAT team, I still worked in the jail. That was my primary job, and I was getting called out a lot, right? A lot. Probably a handful of times during the week. And in 2014, I believe, we went full time. So what that means is when my primary job was at the jail and I got called out, now we just created, 21 positions, and I moved from the jail. And since I was on the SWAT team, I moved into the SWAT team. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, to be on a SWAT team, like at Columbus, I think the average age is, is like 49. Like, you gotta have 22, 23, 25-ish years before you could even think about putting your name in the hat to be on the SWAT team. Whereas I was on the department a year and a half. I'm on the SWAT team, and then we went full time, and that was like huge eye-opener experience for me. I was very, very blessed, very, very fortunate, but you just don't see that. Like, right now, I'd say in the last 2 years, like, my group of people that come in, right, that seniority base could come to the SWAT team. So if that didn't happen when I got on early in my career, when I was selected, right? So when we went full time, it changed. We can't select who we want on the team anymore. They just go through a process, and the process is a physical fitness standard, a shooting standard, and then there is kind of like an interview, but it's primarily like you pass those things, and your highest senior person, you get the job. So that's kind of where we're at.
Are you part of the interview process at all?
No. Nope.
If you do, remember the question, like, just no matter what, just ask are you going to leave the SWAT team for $10 more? Just see what people say.
And just yell. That's what whores do. Think for money. You whore.
I think that is a great.
Crazy. It's crazy. I was not expecting.
I think in corporate America, I don't think you can ask questions about salary. It's so weird, but that is such a great question. Like, if someone offers you $50,000 more to the department, are you going to leave? And the answer's got to be yes. Because I feel like they would have yelled at you if you said no. Like, they'd be like, "What the fuck is wrong?" Like,
yeah,
man.
I don't know. Maybe it's a double. I do know this. So being there at the department for a little bit longer than an A unit for a couple weeks or a month or so, phenomenal human being. He was very, very good at interviewing, interrogation. Like, I would watch, like, I mean, it's Johnstown. I think it's a good stepping stone department as a cop, right? You do everything yourself, right? I responded like a bank robbery. I'm like, what do I do to bank robbery? I don't know what to do to bank robbery. Whereas, like, at a larger department, you have resources, you have divisions, right? Franklin County, if it's a felony, it goes to the detective bureau. There's just, you go to a certain point and then you pass it along. Where at Johnstown, it was a great learning experience for me because I was able to figure some things out on my own, right? Like, I'm putting cases together, and I've got a guy with robbery charges, and I'm doing the investigation part of it. I'm taking pictures. I'm taking, I'm getting the dust thing out, and I'm getting the fingerprints, and like, sending those PCI and I. It's like very good learning.
Can you do the fingerprint thing again? The noise. We might have a job for you with in cartoons doing sound effects.
But yes, it was here's could fill out this witness statement for me, right? Because they fill out the witness statement, can I pull the video, right? That's probably what I should do, right? And I'm trying to find a person, I'm going to go pull the video footage. So, the longer you're in any job or career, right, you learn, right? And I think as a police officer, you learn fairly quickly. I think you have to.
That's good stuff. That's a great. I love that story about that, because I had a similar story. I wasn't in the military, but I went to an interview, and the guy asked me, like, what excites you about taking this job was with Train air conditioning. And like, this is going to be like a 30-minute interview. Yeah. Like, I knew everything about the company. I did the research, and like, I was like, do I lie to this guy or did I just tell him the truth? And I was like, honestly, nothing. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I definitely don't. It was like a hiring conference. I'm like, I definitely am not interested in this job. And he had a, like, and he had this thing that's laughing, like, close it up. And he's like, and it was in a hotel room. It was just like, can't think. So he's like, do you want a cup of coffee? And I'm like, sure. So he like gets a cup of coffee and like gives it to me. And he's just like, we just start talking, and I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, dude, I really fucked this up. Like, and he's like, oh, I really appreciate that. I've got like 7 interviews today, and I'm glad you're honest with me. I'm like, yeah, sorry. And it was the first interview of the day. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And so, he's like, well, I'm going to, we get ready for the next interview. I'm like, cool. Like we shake hands, I leave. And so I do like 4 interviews in a row. And then it's like my lunchtime and my recruiter comes up to me. He's like, what did you tell the guy from Train? I was like, I told him I didn't want the job.
Yeah.
And he's like, you really fucking told him that? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't want the job. He's like, you're his number one guy still. And I'm like, what? So he's like, he's like, he's like, are you guys screwing with me? I'm like, dude, I told him I didn't want the job. So he's like but later in the afternoon, my recruiter came back. He's like, hey, he wants to know if you'll meet him at like after the thing for a beer or whatever drink. Cause we meet there and he's just like, I'm like, dude, what part of no don't you understand? He's like, dude, you got, and it was so this more of the story is like, tell the truth in an interview. I mean, like everybody knows you're lying.
Yeah.
So that'd have been crazy if he would have said, somebody said, Joe Smith, stop laughing in the background. Joe got, who was that? Oh, okay. Come on, Jeremy. No, but yeah, that's a great story. That's gonna go on the top of my interviewing stories.
That's a keeper.
No, I wouldn't leave. I'd stay here.
Yeah, I'd stay here forever.
I'm gonna stay here and have your job, Chief. That's the only thing you did say. Like,
fast forward, right? So like I was there, it was a little under 2 years, right? I'm doing the cop thing. I'm learning. Phenomenal time. I really like the group of guys. I really like the chief, Chief Don Corbin. And I just knew I wanted to kind of just, I'm a peacock. I gotta spread my wings. I gotta fly, right? I just wanted a little bit more. And I kind of lost my train of thought here, but
peacock flying.
It didn't help. I don't know.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Have another drink. It usually helps me sometimes.
Right.
So let's talk about this. So you're loving life. You're moved on from the small police department. You're doing the SWAT thing.
Yep.
Life's going good for you.
Yeah. So that's more my like work.
Yeah.
My home life. So what's kind of going on here?
That's what I'm hitting to. Like things aren't going great, right?
Yeah. Not that they're going great. I think they're going great, right? Like, I'm trucking along. So I come home before we left for Iraq. We went to California, trained there for a little bit. And then they gave us 3-day living in Las Vegas. I don't know how we're all stayed alive and weren't like in jail, but we were there for 3 days. Stacy had come down. I proposed to her, right? So doing the deployment coming home, we got married fairly quickly, right? So we came home end of 05, and then August of 06, got married.
What day?
August 4th, 2006.
Goodness. I'm 25th. You just pause there for a second. It's like, oh shit, he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Yeah. So got married, and I believe
I'm actually July 25th. I'm gonna get in trouble. I said August.
Okay. All right. I'm glad.
Good check by me. See that?
Yep. August 4th, 2006. Started having kids right off the rip. Probably within the first couple months, right? We were actually driving home from our honeymoon, which was in Hilton Head, I believe, and we were coming home, and she's like, "Hey, when are you gonna quit smoking?" I was like, "I'll quit smoking when you're pregnant," right? Well, come to find out, she was pregnant. So I did quit smoking, and I kind of went into dip. I dipped for a long time, on and off. But came home, got married. We had our first son, Landon, and that was in 2007. And shortly after that, in 2008, we had my other son, Luke, and 2011 was Liam, and then 2014 was Lincoln. So coming back to home life, for me personally, coming from family, like I love my family. I come from a big family, and I'd have taken 10 kids if she let me, right? For me personally, my family is my life. Like, and that's kind of what I struggled with a bit. Like, I love my job and I love going to work, but the only people that are going to remember me staying late for work are my kids, right? So I kind of had a come to Jesus moment here years back. Being on the SWAT team, we have a lot of good opportunity to go work like extra jobs, and it's good gigs and it's good money, right? But it's like, yes, I have a job to make income for my family so that they could have a better life. But at the same time, I want to be there for my family. I want to be there with my family. I don't want to miss it, right? And that's tough to do in any job or occupation, right? So probably about 5-ish years ago, I worked the OSU games, and I worked the Columbus Clippers, right? Like these pretty set routine gigs that I would go do. And I was like, you know what? I'm just, not only do I want to be there for my kids' sporting events, I want to be there for practices too. Like I wasn't doing a good job of the home life. My wife was very fortunate. She stayed at home for 10 years ish with the kids. For me, I think that was important for our kids, growing up having, mom there, me growing up with 7 of us. If I ate that night, it wasn't my mom's fault. It was probably, my brother's, but that was a big part of me growing up. Like my mom was always there and my dad was working his butt off every day, right? Trying to support an army, literally. So fast forward a little bit there. My wife was a nurse for a bit. And then when we started having kids, she paused, timed out, and then she was able to stay home with them. Fast forward there, she's like, I gotta get a job. I gotta go talk to adult people. Like I'm baby talking to other, like I need to go interact with society. And I'm like, awesome, cool. I support this 100% as long as we don't have to pay money for you to go have a job, right? The reason you have a job is you make money. And with the kids and daycares and all this stuff, I don't know how this is gonna work out, but I knew she was getting, burnout of being at home. And she crushed it. She went to school. Her mother retired from Columbus City Schools, and she's like, I want to be a teacher. But I thought it was kind of ironic. She was like, I got to get out. I got to talk to all people. Well, now you have a classroom of 25 kids. Right?
You're going to teach 2-year-olds.
That was kind of weird, but
second grade. There you go. What grade does she teach?
She teaches 2nd grade.
I just guessed that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yep. So that was crazy. She dabbled a little bit, like just getting into the school system, subbing and doing that. But she went back to college. She got her degree. After she got her degree, she put her applications out there, got hired on pretty quickly. And then from there, just been crushing it school-wise. She got her master's plus 45. Like anything educational-wise, she does very good at. She's good at balancing, everything, life going on, plus at the same time she's going through school. So she crushed it.
So how were you doing? Like, so you talked about Save a Warrior a little bit.
Yeah, so...
What year was that for you? What cohort number? What year?
I might have been 21.
So what made you decide to head to Save a Warrior?
So I didn't know anything about Save a Warrior. I was at work. Our boss had brought a guy in. He's local out of New Albany. Jake come in and he's talked to our team. Didn't really know what Saul was about. Didn't think there was anything wrong with me. Like I don't, but the more he kind of talked, depression, anxiety, mental health stuff. I think, like mental health, I think is a more common term we're using these days. We all have our own demons, I think. But listening to him kind of talk about Saul, I was like, what this sounds like, it can't hurt, right? Like, so I called, and the way that program works out is you kind of have a phone conversation with a feller. After the phone conversation, they're like, yep, this would be great, we'll get you on the books. And I went to that program, and it was just, like I said, life-changing. Like I was remembering, it was good and bad. I was remembering things that I had wished that would just never come back. But I think it's important for me, like boiling all that up was not good. And I didn't see it. But the people around me, especially my wife, would, I just wasn't the same person. Like things don't excite me anymore. It's like I could, there was change going on where I thought everything was honky-dory, and it wasn't. That was actually the last time that I had a dip before I went to the SAL program. Kind of stopped doing that. So that was October 22nd of 2021.
Last time you did.
Had a dip. Yep.
That's a good move.
Yep. So, it can't be good for you, right? But for me, it was more of my routine.
Well, yeah, there's a lot. We go deep into that. It's great. Like for a little bit about Save a Warrior, he did talk about it. It is located in Ohio, here in Ohio. It's down in Hillsborough now. It's a great program. A little bit about it is it's the original warrior-led time, like heroic journey for active duty members, returning veterans, and first responders, just in the state of Ohio, is what they're letting in now, who feel alone. They offer an alternative holistic service that equips veterans, military personnel, first responders with a community of support and effective techniques to overcome the symptoms and addictions associated with complex PTS. And one of the great things is anybody is a SAL alumni, the favorite thing to say, and I think it smiles when everybody says it changed your life. It does change your life.
It's amazing.
What's that?
It's amazing.
Yeah, for me, I'm on like the cold showers. I'm on like the 5-minute cold shower since I left. I think it was like September 22nd. So like every day, 5-minute cold shower.
Yeah.
So it's more of like what you talked about, stop dipping. We talk about it. It gave you that like sense of purpose, but also like do what you're going to say you're going to do.
Yep.
And say what you're going to do.
Yep.
Like, I guess like declare yourself, declare what you're going to be and who you're going to do, you know, what you're going to do. The dipping, that's a big move. That's a hard one. How many years were you dipping?
All of them before that. Right? Like even over in
From
Iraq.
like 13, yeah.
Yeah, even in Iraq, like
I'm glad I get it.
like I was dipping, I was smoking cigars, like anything nicotine, like I did, right? I was, you know, you didn't sleep very well. You know, dudes were anything with nicotine, keep you up, helping out. But I mean, I was, you know, people would send me cases, right? So I was, you know, you go out and yeah, it's only gonna be a week, right? Well, then it's 3 weeks out there. It's like, you know, people are, yeah, let's sell this dip came $20. Right?
So what were you dipping? What?
Anything, right?
Yeah.
So
What
like my
was your
go-to was
preferred?
like the Welfare Bear Grizzly was kind of like my go-to.
I like Kodiak. That's like, I
Kodiak,
like
see, that was very potent. I think the very first time I ever dipped, I was young, and it was Kodiak, and I just drank.
I thought they just did the lip like,
Yeah, I just drank. You remember the Snapples?
Yeah.
It was pink, and I just drank a full Snapple, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. I slopped one of those things in, right? And my brothers were doing it. I was like, yeah. The next thing, and I was like, right? And I went,
yeah.
and it was the Snapple came out just as pink as I just drank it. It was pretty wild. But yeah, and for me, and it just came into a habit. And Stacy would even be like, Nate, we need to quit dipping, right? And I had quit in the past, you know, a couple months here and there, but it was never really like a determining factor. And then I decided to quit, and then went through the program, and that just kind of kept me motivated to stay off the sauce.
What other positive things with the program?
Just different outlook on life, right? So, like I said, there was a lot of things that I didn't realize that I was just kind of holding in that affected my everyday being, right? So going through that program, and even my wife was like, Nate, what happened? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. What happened? It's like, honey, I couldn't even explain it if I wanted to, right?
And if I do,
chart,
you're going to think I'm fucking crazy.
Pictures, you know, I don't know. Like, so, and if I were to tell anybody, you know, should I go through Saul? I would say absolutely, and why? And it would be like, if there's anything not working in your life, anything at all,
Yeah.
that's just not jiving, if you would go through that program, and you'd be phenomenal. And I think the more your willingness to go into that program like that, or anything to help, like realize, like, gosh, you know, I need help, right? The more willing you're going into that, whatever it is, I think you're going to come out with a whole bunch more.
Yeah, I think that, like you said it amazingly, is if something's not working in your life, like a lot of things can be like, I don't like the word help, right? Because that people listen to be like, I don't need fucking help. I don't need, but if something's not working, and if you can take a deep dive and look back and be like, you know, X, Y, and Z is working for me, but you know, A, B, and C is not, and it's really like, you know, A, B, and C could be, it's not, it doesn't even have to be drastic. Like for some people, it's kind of crazy. It doesn't have to be like, I'm fucking drinking 2 bottles of whiskey a night. You know, I've got 10 DWIs. I'm divorced. Like I beat my, like if something's not working, it could be small, right?
Absolutely.
It definitely is something you need to look into. And it's not getting the word out of help is, I think, a stigma. I think for me is like, I don't give a shit by saying help, because we all need help. Like that's the funny thing. And like, as soon as you get off, a lot of people are really reluctant to it, because it's like, oh, I'm not,
It's different.
everything in my life is great. Is it really though?
Right.
And I thought a lot of things in my life were working great until I went there and I was like, oh shit, they're working great for me, but not for other people.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, oh my gosh, yeah. It's definitely. I'm not in that. Like, I'm not in that. With you, and my wife is like, oh, all these great things have happened. Like, we have our ups and downs with that, because I'm 51 and I've been doing some stupid shit for a long time. Yeah. So it's for me, it's like, you know, you take these steps forward, and then like the craziest thing about it is like, you do come back, like the greatest thing about that program is you come back like on fire, man. Like it's something like you were ready to like, dude, there's no,
you were hot. I ready to just take the world on.
You were like ready to go. You're like,
say that. They're like, listen, dude, just don't make any drastic changes. Don't get into this, right?
But it's that feeling of like, I think for the first time, like for me, it was like, it was, you know, it's all these things are put in front of you that you knew were there, right? And then like they show it to you, and there's a part of it that you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I never saw this.
Yep.
And then when you see it, you're kind of like,
yeah, I saw a little baseball here. Whose baseball was that?
yeah, that's mine.
Okay.
So what's your
So
number?
initially it was 2, and by the end of it was 7.
Yeah. So it's a good, yeah.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a deep, do you want to talk about that? That's,
sure. Yeah.
so one of the things is the ACES score is a test they take and we take there and you can look at that. We're not getting details, but the average, it's a 0 to 10. You can score,
10,
right?
10 questions.
Yeah, 10 questions. It's a test that, or I get yelled at, but it's not a test.
Not a
Somebody
test.
told me this is not a test. It's a questionnaire where they ask you these questions. And it was originally started, from what I know, is for insurance companies, to some of these things that you answer the question to. If you answered yes to them, it kind of made you a risk. So one of the questions,
to cover you.
Yeah. Exactly. One of your questions is are you from an alcoholic family? Odds are, if you're from an alcoholic family, then you're going to be an alcoholic. Yep. It's good odds, right? And we know that from.
Yeah, your quote just went up.
Yeah. So, exactly. But that's how it started. But this is what they apply. And like how, I don't know how you did it, but I just went, last year, you take that score in the beginning, first hour, and then the last hour.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things they're looking at, is when there's in that environment where it's safe, that score is going up.
Sure.
Mine did not. Mine stayed, I went 7 to 7.
Like mine.
I mean, 7 is not a great. I mean,
no, 10's a high score. You don't want a high score, right? Like the lower the better, right? But like for me personally, I think I was just blocking so many things out. It wasn't just blocking out my deployment over Iraq, right? It affected so much more stuff that just like I was blocking out. Yeah,
and the ACES score, just to talk about it, it's formative trauma. So it's from 0 to 18. Mm-hmm. So the first 18 years of your life. It's pretty impactful. Like, but the interesting thing about that is when we talk about the score, right? So from what they tell us, average score of a convicted felon in the United States of America is a 7.
Yeah.
I'm a 7. You're a 7.
That is correct.
Joe's a 9 over there. No, but it's an eye opening, but I think that was the first idea of like where you deep down dive, like what is cause you to act the way you have from an early age.
Yep,
and it's really impactful. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. But everyone's going to get on there. Like, I think the average person says like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
As I say, but it's definitely a test. Like, don't, it's not, I keep saying test because I got somebody give me a hard time.
Survey.
It's a questionnaire survey, but it's a test. No, I'm kidding.
You can, yeah, they have all the questions there. Run through it, see what your number is.
But one of the great things about it is it does definitely. If you're in Ohio, if you're listening, you're not in Ohio, and like Nate said, if something's not working in your life, get on there, get on the application process, look at it, answer the questions honestly.
Yeah, life's hard, right? And I think surrounding yourself with good people makes life easier, right? You want to do that, and doing a program like that or surrounding that's the group of people that I went through there, like still keep in touch, right? We're kind of holding everybody accountable, right? And in me too in law enforcement, like I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career and a job, and it was kind of like failing at this and this and that, and being in law enforcement, being a cop really helped me out, right? I didn't like sitting behind a desk. I liked being in law enforcement, helping people. I liked having a good group of people surrounding me. And then when I got in the SWAT team, it was like, man, I don't miss the military. I miss my dudes, right? And being on a good unit like that really personally helped me out just to, be a better person every day.
Yeah, the community is open for men and women. There's different cohorts, but like Nate said, if you're like, I didn't want to get into the whole, promote Saul, but it's changed my life as well. But you definitely need to get on there. If something's not working, it doesn't matter what it is, get on there, answer the questions honestly, because I lied on mine.
Yep. The more
I didn't want to be seen too fucked up.
Right. And
I was like, I don't want to be too fucked up. I'm not really answer that question right. And I was like, yeah, but answer it honestly, and then it can definitely change your life. It's a great program. I recommend it for anybody. You said it right though. Anybody that's something's not working.
Something not working in your life, whatever that thing is, right? You would gain from
and I think honestly, if like anybody is like, somebody said, what, Nate, you have some lady friends asking you to do the voice again in the side chats.
Well, thank you for joining us with Boards and Patriots, ladies.
I love the new. It was probably Joe that put that up there, the quote. What was that?
The ladies.
Oh wow! Look at that, the ladies. So everything's going well. You're living the SWAT dream.
Yes.
What's a SWAT officer doing like when they're not, doing SWAT stuff? Like,
Family
that we,
stuff. I
that
mean,
we
so
see?
everyone's different. I think like what I try to do, what I'm.
I mean, like if you're not responding to
Yeah.
something
Okay.
today,
Yeah,
what's
yeah, sure,
what's the
sure, sure.
SWAT? What's the
So,
21
like,
guys doing?
a day-to-day op, like I'm going into the office. For this last week, gosh, I think we were slammed. There was one night we had a search warrant. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. We had another search warrant. Then we waited around. We had a search warrant at probably like 7 p.m. That got pushed back. We went and finally did it at like 10, and then we went all the way outside of our county to go assist with another one. So it was like 19 hours straight, and that was a long day. A normal, typical day is I go into the office. Like I said, there's two shifts. There's a first shift and a second shift, and the first shift hours are from 6 a to 4 p, and second shift guys are from 1 p to 11 p. And it just kind of gets a little bit of interaction where we're mingling with each other in the middle. And if something major were to happen during those times, the whole team would go. But a typical day is I go into work, we get in, and we'll go work out. That first hour is just kind of like we have to meet physical requirements for our team. And there's a lot of good guys, a lot of good knowledge of just like working out. Me personally, I'm trying to do a better job of working out more, right? Like, you know, for me, I do a lot of trainings and stuff. So to get in there and get in the morning, I've just gotten pretty lackadaisical as far as like, this is a good time, right? Just get on the computer. I can write that training report, you know, but doing a better job of it here lately of just trying to like, hey, I need to get my butt back here, right? Like I'm not 20 anymore. When I eat a Big Mac, you know, I can feel it for 8 days later, right? Like I was
My
sore
run score just went down by 30 seconds.
I was tying my shoe and I pulled something in my back, right? So it's like,
I don't know that feeling. I'm in a top specimen over here,
Right.
physical specimen.
you got the slip-on shoes. That's what it is. The Hey Dudes or something. So
Side zip up boots.
Yeah.
You're like,
so get in there. For me, it helps like, you know, having, you know, a lot of guys do a lot of different stuff like the CrossFits and the weightliftings and stuff like that. But just getting back here, being mobile, right? I ache, right? And I don't know if that's from the military. I got beat up pretty good coming back from Iraq. I had hip surgery coming home. I don't know how an 85-year-old person feels on the inside, but I think I'm close. Like I ache, right? I wake up every morning. It's just like, so that's what I want to get better at. I want better mobility. I even done like yoga classes and stuff. But the physical fitness portion for my job is important, right? It's not only important for me, it's important for the guys around me, right? Because they're also relying upon me. So we go in there, we'll do that. Next hour, we're just kind of like getting ready, hopping in the shower maybe, getting something on our bellies, and we'll hit like roll call. What are we going to do for the day, right? So our role on the team is we do warrants. We're going to look for bad guys, right? We do a lot of the higher end warrants. We also do these things called probates. Probates are on the mental health side of things where it's like, hey, Susie, she's not taking her crazy pills. She's threatened to kill her mother. You know, we get this paperwork. It's court signed from a judge. And we go out and we pick them up and we take them to the hospital so they can get some help. That takes up a lot of our time. When we first went full time back in 2014, it was manageable, I think, and then it's just kind of evolved today to just something that is extremely difficult to keep up with. Like they get issued at such a high rate volume, it's tough to keep up with them.
what do you think that is?
I just think that's a great question. I think mental health is people aren't so scared to talk about it anymore, and I think the resources out there are rough. I know personally from dealing like. We're picking up the same people for the same problem, for the same, something's not working here, right? Like we can only pick up a person so many times, drop them off hospital. They're like, this ain't working. It's crazy times right now. I mean, there's a lot of crazy people, right? I don't know, you know, COVID screwed up a whole bunch of stuff, right? Jobs, families, incomes, finances, things like that. But the mental health thing on our day-to-day job is booming, right? We get a high volume of these things, a lot. And so we try to manage doing the probates, but at the same time going arresting bad guys, like guys with warrants and stuff, on top of trainings, right? We do a very specialized thing. There's a lot of tools that we have that we need to practice, keep up on.
Right.
So, you know, we have training dates, we have training schedules. I help out with the training stuff, like the sniper things, and I'm getting sniper dates for the whole year, and what are we going to do there, and gear, and so we do a lot of trainings. We do a lot of those probates, and then we do the warrant services. But we also do any agency asks for our help in our region. We have a lot of equipment that we've been fortunate to get through funds. And by that, if any agency calls us within our region, hey, we need help, we have this person, can you come please help us? And we'd love to go do that. We love to go do that for our own division, or our own department. Like if patrol calls and says, hey, we got this guy, he ran inside the structure, now it's barricaded, can you guys come help us? Absolutely. And we're getting to a better job of reaching out to our own divisions inside of our county of getting out there. And I think that's important. Of just like, hey, these are the tools we have. These are the resources that we could bring to the table, right? It's silly if you're trying to go get this guy's got a rifle out of that house, and we've got ballistic shields that will stop these things. Like we got level 3 shields that will stop a rifle bullet, right? So it's like we have all these tools and resources, and we'd love to go out there and help out anybody who needs that. So we dabble a little bit with like search warrants. We help out a lot with our investigative unit. They'll do their investigations where, hey, we got this guy, we've purchased drugs off of him, or hey, a community member reached out to us and saying, hey, this guy's slinging drugs out of his house, right? So they'll do an investigation, and in their investigation, they'll get to a certain point where they've got enough evidence to say, hey, we're gonna go see what's going on in here, right? So then we kind of hop in. So there's some communication going on there with the other divisions, and we'll sit down and have a brief and kind of game plan it. And we talk about some like tactical stuff and hey, where we're going to put this thing. We've got a lot of great equipment. We've got bulletproof vehicles, Bearcats is what they call them. And shields, our armor's a little bit more beefier, if you will. It'd be like more military style stuff. Big vests will stop a whole much more caliber of rounds than just like a patrol vest. Our weapons, all the tools. We have an equipment truck, and it holds all of the equipment, right? Just extra stuff, munitions, shields, dog poles, mirrors, night vision, like all kinds of crazy stuff. So we got to keep up on that, and that takes a lot of time. So managing that on top of our day to day. Once we decide whether we're going to do the warrant side of things, and in that there's some investigation going on, right? But we're very good at finding people, right? We got a lot of resources. We do a lot of dialing with the U.S. Marshals, which brings a lot of good resources to our unit and to the department, and vice versa. So it's a good thing to have. And between those and the probates, we'll come back, get something in our bellies, go back out for a little bit more maybe, and kind of call it a day. When we're off work, it doesn't happen a bunch. Like I'm on call 24/7, and it happens more for the second shift guys, I think. Most of the inconvenience is in the mornings where I'm already going into work, right? So if it's like right now, hey, we got a brief tomorrow morning, 0600, I'm going into work anyway, right? Whereas the second shift guy, he doesn't get off till 11. So he's get 11, get to bed, and then he's got to wake up, come back in. So there's a little bit more, they get called out a lot more than on the first shift hours. It only happens, I don't know, 10-ish, 20 times throughout the year, to where it's like we're at church or we're at a birthday party, and my phone goes off.
So it's not like the SWAT TV show where they're like every
no. Now that's us. Columbus Police Department, they get called out all the time. Yeah. And they get called out all the time. So it's hit or miss. A lot of the times we get called out a lot, but a lot of the times it's like right now, if my phone went off, it's a brief tomorrow, 0600. Rarely is it like maybe once a month, twice a month. It's, hey, respond here right now.
Gotcha.
So, that.
So you've been a law enforcement officer since 2017. So my math is 17 years or so. About that.
Yeah. So I started in 07, right? That time was a little bit different. So we can talk like
15, about 17 years though, right?
Sure. We'll go with that. Different retirement systems. Yeah. But yeah.
So favorite thing about being a law enforcement officer?
I love the department. I love the guys, and I like being with a good group of guys who can go out and help people.
Least favorite thing about being a law enforcement officer?
The people that really don't want my help.
That's it. Like you were like, I thought you could elaborate more. Like, holy shit, I gotta get my questions done now. You're like, woo. Ooh, okay. And no, I'm joking. No,
It's
okay.
right now.
Okay,
law
I got something
enforcement,
for you
it's
now.
just
I got
tough.
something for you.
Let's
You
go.
answer those very quickly. I like that. Good answers. Very direct to the point. I like it.
All right.
Biggest challenge facing law enforcement today, 2024.
The biggest challenge in law enforcement today, I think, is just society. I think it's easy to point the blame in law enforcement side. I'm not saying we're all 100% correct all the time. It just seems very jaded right now. And I think a couple of years ago, the pendulum hit hard, right? It was like, there were police officers getting hunted down just because they're wearing a uniform, right? So that sucked, right? And it's hard to go help people when they don't want the help. You see a lot of being overseas. I saw a lot of hatred. I've seen hatred here in the States, right? Just with dealing with people. And I think, I love my job. I love going out there. I love helping people. It's non-rewarding sometimes, and I think you can kind of get in a funk with that. I deal with people who don't want to see me every day, right? And then you do that for so long. It just you get kind of in a funk. And in law enforcement right now, I personally feel it's just like decision making out there. It's so fast, it's so quick. My goal is for the community. My goal is to go home every night to my family, right? And it is a very, very dangerous job. Like being on the team, I've been involved in multiple shootings. The Bearcat's been shot up a bunch. It's dangerous, right? And I want to go home every night. And I think those decisions we make in law enforcement, maybe armchair quarterback a little bit, like, well, maybe you should have done this, or maybe that would have been good, or maybe this would have been good. And I just feel like, and in law enforcement, just gets a bad rap, and I think it's easy to point the finger at the law enforcement being the bad guy.
So easy question or hard question?
That one?
Next question.
Surprise me.
Ooh. We'll go with the easy one. I don't, but you're a Marine, so this might be hard one for you. So I was going to go with the book one, but I'm not going to because you're like, he said he didn't read earlier, so I can't imagine he was going to publish a book.
The book I'm reading right now is Becoming a King.
Okay. That was the question, but I was going to do, I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going to go with any person, living or dead, you can have a conversation with. Who would it be and what would you talk about?
Abe Lincoln.
Okay. What would you talk about?
No, I was kind of throwing some names out there. Let me think about this. So say the question one more time, please. Could you
repeat the question?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Can you use it? What origin does this question come from?
Remember that when they use it in a sentence?
If you could meet any person, living or dead,
meet any person, living or dead,
who would it be, and what would you talk about?
It'd be Jesus Christ. I would go back and I would have a conversation with Jesus himself. And we would probably be sipping on some wine, just like we're sitting here today. And I would just love to have a conversation with him. All right, be real, kind of like your interview where you went in there and like, hey, listen, what's the textbook answer here? Why you want to become an electrician? Like, well, I went through HVAC, or just be real and have a conversation with Jesus. That's my answer.
That's your final answer.
That's my final answer.
Ding! No, it's like that was good. Can you repeat the question? So we'll go with that. I don't think that was an easy question, but neither were easy. But here's a final one that before we do that. But we talked about mental health. You've been open about it. You went to Saul before. So with all the focus now that's on mental health, both for veterans and first responders, what is not being done that needs to be done, in your opinion?
I think you need to be real with yourself. I think you need to sit down and have a good conversation with yourself, right? Not like what other people's opinions, not like, ooh, how am I going to be looked at? I think you need to sit down and really evaluate things going on in your life, right? And if there's things that are not working, they're not working, right? Well, you got to change it. And that's on you to change, right? But I've been there and I've been there and I've sat there and I think like, well, I'm fine, I'm hunky-dory, but you're not, right? And I think that. And, that's the challenging part would be real with yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to be able to, really take a,
because everyone's so worried about what everybody else thinks about them. Everybody's so worried about oh gosh, the social media stuff and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, everything's fine and hunky dory. It's not.
Yeah.
Nobody's life is every day they go to vacation in Florida and all the cool things you post on, the Book of Face and
the Book of Face. I've heard that one in a while.
Yeah.
No, it is true. Like everything on Facebook is great. Not really. The people are, I like the people that throw the real shit in there, like some bad stuff that's going out. but you know, it is interesting that, like, to be able to, that self-assessment also, to be able to talk about it is huge, to be able to that to look at yourself and really understand, like, that you're not okay. And I think it's getting better. I think it's the thing that's comforting me is it's okay. Like, at some point in everybody's life, they're not going to be okay. Right. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or first responder. Something ain't going to go your way. It's not going to work. So everybody's dealing with it. So, like, why the fuck do we, like, act like we're, like, everything's perfect when it's not? You know what I mean? And I think that's that's the thing is,
and it's getting dangerous too, because our kids are getting, like, and it's tough for me. It's a struggle, right? I got young kids, right? And it's like, you look around now with my kids going to school, it's like, Dad, I need a phone. I want a phone. I want a phone. I want a phone. Like, you don't need a phone until you're driving, at least, right? Because that's when I need to get a hold of you. But it's like, if you don't get a phone, you know, that's how they're posting sporting events and stuff and schedules. And well, you know, 8-year-olds running around with these phones. It's like, and I've even told my kids, and I'm guilty of it. I was like, well, if you need to call me, you know my phone number, go grab one of their phones and call me, right? Where there's a lot of information these kids are getting or have access to that, if not monitored well, can really screw some things up, I think, especially in the mental health side of the stuff. Yeah,
I think 100%. I think the other thing too is, like, with me, I have to fight with my kids. If they come to me about something and I'm like, it's that big of a fucking deal. Like, what the fuck is wrong? You know, like, I've done it a lot. Like, I hope the guys are listening eventually. Like, I still find myself catching myself doing it. It's like, you know, you can struggle. Like, everybody struggles a different, like my worst day is not your worst day, which is not my kid's worst day, but just understanding that. And then I think, you know, the self-assessment is huge. Like, everybody walks around like everything's hunky-dory. Something ain't working in your life. Talk about it.
For sure.
Fix it. Or maybe not fix it, or talk about it.
And two, not only is it on you, I think after, especially going through that program and stuff, you do realize everybody's going through something, right? And everybody's got bad days. If you think you're having a bad day and you run into somebody, man, they're having a really jacked up day. So it's also too, like, especially in your little bubble of people that you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis, if you're seeing something that's off, man, pull them aside, have a conversation with them. Don't do it in front of everybody else, but have that one-on-one conversation with them, like, hey man, listen, I'm, you know, dead serious. Are you okay? Is there something you need to talk about? And if there is, help them out.
Yeah, 100%. That's great advice. Want to thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I didn't really know what was going on. I'll figure out what a podcast is after I leave here.
Yeah, I think you're figuring it out. You're doing great. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for
having.
Thanks for sharing your story. Sorry for all your lost brothers.
I appreciate
that.
From
Marines. It's a sad story here, and if you don't know about it, one of the things we talked about is, we'll put this up here, is there's a great thing here in Ohio. I don't know if they're traveling out of the state of Ohio, but if you ever get a chance to see it, the Eyes of Freedom,
phenomenal
exhibit. Great story. And I did have a quote from her before. You can leave that up, Joe, but it's from the lady who created it. And if you look at there, what it is, it's basically these life size.
Her name's Anita Miller.
Yeah, life size portraits of all the Marine and corpsman and the one corpsman that lost his life. But a quote that she had was, "I woke in the middle of the night with a star and hovering in front of me. I saw life-size paintings displayed in a circle in the Ohio State House rotunda. People were milling around them, leaving messages of love in the boots at the base of the portraits. Suddenly the people disappeared, and a crew of workers came in and dismantled the paintings as if they were moving it to no location. I knew it was a traveling tribute to the fallen of Lima Company, and I felt somehow I was being asked to create it," and that's what she created. So it's a pretty amazing thing if you haven't seen it. And that's what all to say about that.
I don't know, like, timeline. Do I need me to wrap it up? No more stories?
No, please talk about it. Yeah,
so this is a crazy story. Like, we had a reunion. I think it was at a military ball, and I sat at the table with her and I was talking with her, which was kind of crazy because I've seen it, and it's wild. They're amazing. Fast forward, we were doing some fun date night. Me and the wife, me and Stacy were out, and it was like a beer and or a wine and paint a picture kind of a thing, right? It was in the Westerville area, and growing up, art, sure, again, let's go on a date night. And it was just, paint a picture, bring some wine, paint a picture. We go to this place, and I was going up the refrigerator where, you're painting a tree, put some leaves and maybe a little bird or whatever. And I went up to the refrigerator to grab another beverage, and there was a magnet on it, and it was the Eyes of Freedom. So I go back down, and I said, "That's wild. The Eyes of Freedom, that was, Lima Company." She goes, "You're sitting in the building where Anita Miller, she made all the paintings in this studio." And I was like I got the goosies when she told me that. I was like, that's crazy. Like, I'm sitting in here where she created all those portraits of my dudes who died overseas, which was pretty wild.
That's that's
cool.
got to be a
Yeah. And my buddy Mike Straley, he just kind of passed the torch on to somebody else, but that was his kind of main journey, was that, and he would take that venue to all places all over the country. Very, very cool. I highly recommend that if you haven't seen it, look it up. They travel around a lot to different venues. I would highly recommend going and seeing it. It's pretty moving.
It's pretty amazing. Well, again, thank you. We're gonna end it with the somber part of each podcast tonight. We're gonna honor a military veteran who unfortunately took their life. So tonight we're gonna honor U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Joshua Thomas Miller, 35 years old. Josh took his life on December 25th, 2016 in the Sierra Nevada forest in California. Josh was born on January 25th, 1981 in Lansing, Michigan. Josh graduated from Haslett High School in 1999. In 2000, Josh enlisted in the United States Marine Corps as a landing support specialist. While assigned to the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit from 2000 to 2004, Josh deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. After leaving the Marine Corps, Josh attended the University of California at Berkeley, and later worked at their seismology department. Josh loved the outdoors and tinkering around in his wood shop. His happiest moments were spending time with his son, his family, when he was out in the nature and working on his projects. Josh was very proud of his service in the Marine Corps. Unfortunately, the demons he encountered in Iraq followed him home, never leaving him at peace. Josh is survived by his son Vincent, parents Thomas and Elizabeth, brothers Stephen and Michael, sisters Jennifer, Sarah, and Amanda, his partner Meg, and numerous other relatives and friends. Like we always say, if you or someone you know is considering suicide or is in crisis, please contact the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255. You can also now chat at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. So I wanted to, again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing the story.
Thank you for having me.
And we can't end the podcast without a Marine Corps quote. There's so many of them. So I think I found a new one that I haven't used. That was the one thing I had to go back and look at. So yeah. we'll end it with a quote from General Alexander Grandergrift. "The bended knee is not a tradition of our Corps." You heard that one before?
I've never heard that one before.
Feel good they did that. They did not.
I like that.
So, but and then finally, it's usually Josh back there. It's Joe tonight. I have to do the final thing. We probably should have done this earlier, but we have to promote our fundraiser that's coming up May 18th at Zaftig Brewery, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to have some serious cornhole going on. Okay. We're going to have some great prizes, $500 for first place, $300 for second place, $150 for third place. More importantly, we're going to have some great silent auctions. We have some great items that are coming up. We have some sponsorships that are available, but come out, play some cornhole, bid on some great silent auction items. Okay. We're going to be releasing that. What's that? Live band with it. Oh yeah, we're going to get that. Yeah. The live band, we're going to have live band, great beer, 50-50 raffle. And of course you get to meet Joe. So it'll be a great thing. So, tickets are still available. We still have some teams open. You don't have to purchase the ticket to show up. You just have to purchase a ticket if you want to play in the cornhole tournament. I'll also make sure I post a picture of Joe so you guys don't see him out there with like a face mustache or a fake beard to try to win it, because he's not eligible to win. So we'll watch out for that. So, but again, Nathan, thank you for coming on. Thanks you for your service.
Appreciate
to
it.
Both the nation and the community here in Franklin County.
Thank you.
And outlying communities, and be safe.
Always.
And we'll tell some good stories and drink some good whiskey when we end this here. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks.